All right, welcome back to What She Said Sports, everybody. This Shanola girl checking in here. I hope everybody had a good day. I did as well. I planned a good show for you, right? Um, the thumbnail, the caption, and some of the things that I said. I think on community, it's getting hot in here, and it really is. So I checked on the petition to see where that is, so y'all could we could update you on that, and we're gonna look into that. Brian Flores lawsuit move forward. We're going to talk about that. We've been keeping up the Brian Flores case. If you're new to the channel, you can go back to probably middle of the season. We actually reviewed the lawsuit, the documents. We reviewed the case file, so you can check that out. So we've been following this, and it took a step forward. And Chiron Moore, Chiron Moore went to court today. And some very interesting information is coming out of that case. And we just talked about a young man named Brian Banks who was set up. So now it's beginning to appear that Chiron Moore, in some aspects of his case and what was reported, has been set up. So we're going to talk about that. So come on in, come on in, come on in. Happy birthday if it's your birthday. Mardi Gras already ended. They already have posted the date for Mardi Gras next year. I already got one text. Do I want to go? Sure. So we're gonna see where that go. And let's see. Let me see. Feel free to share in the community what you have going on. You know, we use this as an appreciation table, and we'll celebrate you. All right. So let's get into. Let's see if we can go maybe to Chiron Moore first. I wanted to take a look at that because honestly, it all ties together. I think everything that I put together for today ties together with these cases and, you know, how people are being treated right now. I know y'all probably saw the Shedeur files, and if you did, good, because that's where I took my aha moment. I see they're starting to get it right. So y'all know my theory of 17 and 32. You saw me post and talk about what was supposed to be a historic year for Black quarterbacks in the draft, which Shedeur being number 17 had he was drafted in the first round. So that didn't happen. He got, apparently, according to them, locked out of the first round. According to reports from people on the NFL side, it was good Shedeur didn't show up to Green Bay because he was locked out of the first round. So what it proves is there was a concerted effort by many to make sure that young man was not drafted in the first round or anywhere near the first round, that he would have an easier time or a fair opportunity to get to QB1 for the start of the season. Now, remember, Shedeur Sanders won the competition outright, proved multiple times that he was the best quarterback they had on the roster. All they seemed to do is collect bodies to make sure he couldn't get the reps in the summer, to make sure that he understood that Dylan was going to be ahead of him, no matter how good and accurate and of a winner that Shedeur was. Dylan was going to be in front of him for the sole purposes he was drafted before him, even though Dylan proved to not be better than Shedeur. So that it proves that there was a concerted effort to make sure this young man was not QB1 for the season. And yesterday, we talked about how Shedeur ended up playing more games at the start than Dylan. Shedeur had 7, Dylan had 6. It proves that they were always going to use him in some capacity, or as Andrew Berry say, the alternative use for the selection. It was never to be QB1. There was always an alternative use for the selection. So when you see the Shedeur files and other channels saying anybody but Shedeur, it shows me that they now see, because they had a caricature of Munkin looking at other people other than Shedeur. It proves that they now get it. That even with a new head coach, the bullshit continues. Because that's facts. That's what I've been saying. Now, they'll get to the point that they begin, and maybe they already know that this is not just about Shedeur, but they only cover Shedeur, which is why it's called the Shedeur Files. But I posted multiple times, including recently, that this is not about Shedeur. This is about what? Drop it in the chat. What's the theory? Everybody know it if you follow this channel. 17-32. We often talk about how the players have been conditioned to submit. The NFL players have been conditioned to submit. Well, now it's time to talk about how the fans have been conditioned to accept racism. Somebody on TikTok, under the post where I was talking about Shedeur, that's in the shorts on YouTube, on how they still drafted Michael Penix Jr. They still drafted Cam, but they trying to push off Michael Penix Jr. They holding back Cam, and they didn't draft Shedeur because he was number 17. Because that's what it all was about. And when people begin to make the mental connection, to the point is they did Shedeur so disgustingly dirty and robbed him of $40 million to ensure that he was not the 17th black starting quarterback. That's why they celebrated 16 this year. Remember the little chart with all the black quarterbacks on it? That's why they celebrated 16. And I noticed nobody bothered to realize if Shedeur, or say it out loud outside of myself, if Shedeur was drafted where he was supposed to be, number 2 or number 3 in the first round at number 21, it didn't matter where in the first round. As long as he went in the first round, he was going to be inherent QB1. So he could have got drafted in the first round at number 21, but he was going to be QB1 for the Steelers. It's documented. Mike Tomlin was advised to draft the Colorado Star and make him QB2 because the sole purpose of the nasty things that they did to Shedeur was to ensure that there were not 17 black starting quarterbacks at the end of the first night. What did the owner say? If you would have told me last night or whatever, night 1, that he was going to get drafted, I would have told you, that's how serious they were about their racism. And it's going to come out. You know why? Because they're going after every black quarterback right now. None of them are safe, including Pat Mahomes, which is why he injured. And that's what I was saying in my post. It's going to come out. People going to start connecting the dots that this is not just happening to Shedeur. See, Shedeur came into the league with 20 million fans to expose what's happening. They didn't have to draft Shedeur. In fact, they were going to try to make him an undrafted free agent just to embarrass him. So let me get this right. You don't want to draft anybody that's black at number 17 to be the 17th black starting quarterback in the first round. But you finagled things so Shedeur was 17 and not Cam. And you handled Milroe in college, so he wasn't going to be 18. So it was Cam. It was supposed to be Cam, Shedeur, and Milroe. Those were the 3 black quarterbacks coming out in the top. It was only Cam. And instead of Shedeur and Milroe, it was Jackson Dart and Tyler Shaw. So they swapped and disregarded the talent of 2 black quarterbacks. To support their racism, they got 2 white ones who were not talented the other 2. And over in the SEC, they helped to further that agenda by setting up Jalen Milroe, making Jalen Milroe seem like he was pure trash when his QBR was right here. He was in the top 4. And you know who the top 4 were? Shedeur, Cam, Quinn Ewers, and Milroe. What happened to Quinn Ewers? Why did he get the nod? He got pushed all the way to the bottom. Let's see if he end up with a Brock Purdy contract, and the answer will be so it doesn't appear to be racist. So they don't just push down the black quarterbacks. We're going to push down Milroe too. His family called collusion, and they were right. And he immediately got an endorsement, and they try to make up for the money that he lost. And don't forget, he was over there with the Manning kid, and he refused to be benched. Rightfully so, because the Manning kid wasn't ready. So his family was right. It's collusion. People are starting to see that in Cleveland, we're not about to go through the whole season pretending, because we see even with Monk in there, you want anybody other than Shedeur. And there are people in the comments on the Shedeur Files who have pointed out they want the Manning kid. I can take a bow. Because that's what it is. I told you, I don't care who said it, long as it gets said. And it's being said. And people are realizing anybody but Shedeur They want the Manning kids. So it's not anybody but Shedeur. It's get a bridge until we get the Manning kid. But it really is, it's not anybody but Shedeur. Any white quarterback that's not black. That's what it is. No Pat Mahomes this time. No biracial. No multiracial. No light skin. No cinnamon skin. No caramel tones. No mocha. Because they go by the one drop rule. Mm-hmm. Most races do. So it's not just that the fans are seeing what's happened and starting to come to light, and the conversations will continue over the season. The fans are on a path that they don't know that they are realizing, because they will get to the point when they realize it's racism. They will get to the point where we are. We talked about this podcast being ahead. That what happened to Shedeur in the draft was about racism. What's happening, or what happened to it, what's happening to Shedeur in Cleveland is racism. They will get to that point. And if they all get there at the same time and talk about it on these larger platforms, Shedeur gonna be on another team or out the league. So we got to do it in God's timing, right? But to see the awakening starting to happen, anybody but Shedeur, that's one step. The next step is, oh, damn, you just want a white quarterback. And some fans are there. But everybody, the majority, is not there yet. Somebody said to me in the comments, well, Lamar had to go through it, so Shedeur just going through it. I said the it that Lamar and Shedeur have gone through, the it is racism. And I said fans are conditioned to accept racism in the NFL as long as they get to watch people play football, just like players are conditioned to accept racism as long as they get paid. But let's talk about that. And that's where we segue into around the league. If you follow us on the community, you saw my conversation, so let's have it. So the conditioning was so you could just go along with the racism as a player. Remember all of the dirt diving we saw? Remember the skipping to my loo and the underperforming? Then we started to see it spread around the league with Caleb, which got him eliminated because his receiver stopped running on his routes. And we talked about that. We talked about we're seeing a trend of black receivers stopping their running on their routes in elimination games. We already knew Lamar wasn't happy with Harbaugh after they played the Steelers because he got set up. Setting up is not new. Racism is not new. Matter of fact, they're getting set up because the goal is to be racist and eliminate the black quarterbacks from becoming the majority of the QB1s or the starters on 32 NFL teams. 32 divided by in half is 16. That was Cam. Shedeur was the +1 at 17. Milroe was +2 at 18. And they actually documented they have Milroe buried for 2 years. And when you think about it, and you know it's just not about Shedeur, wait till you start looking into Deshaun. And while he never played the majority of any games in any one season since he went there, because the rule is whoever plays the majority of the games is QB1. So it should tell you how serious they take who QB1 is on the record. Why? Why? As a Shedeur fan or Shedeurian, I don't just see what's happening to Shedeur. What's happening to Shedeur has been happening. And I have enough whatever to know that coming with 20 million fans shines a light on what's been happening to everybody else. And that's Shedeur is being used for. Not by the Browns, but by the one. And that's why I told y'all after the draft, they done lost this fight. They done lost this fight. The way you see Shedeur being protected, they done lost this fight. They still trying to cover the lie that they colluded against him in the draft. But then they foolishly continued it in Cleveland with more people watching. So now you got to cover up the lie in Cleveland and cover up the lie in the draft and cover up the lie at Colorado. So I want your daddy gone. Because I got to cover up the lie of what happened at Colorado. And why it is that Dylan was the wedge to hold Shedeur back on the Heisman stage and in Cleveland. So how far long back y'all been working? And since you decided in 2024 after the Vegas Super Bowl, since you decided you wanted to get Charles Woodson at 24, but you didn't accept him until 25, was that to cover your racism? Because, oh, let me go get a black person. So for those people who say the Browns have one of the most diverse teams, collecting black people like Infinity Stones while intimidating against them, retaliating against them, and using them for prop objects to hide your racism is not diversity at all. And that's all that's been happening. You can look at Sashi Brown and why he was hired. You can look at Andrew Berry, who took over after Sashi Brown, and see what's going on with him and wait to see what happens with him and wait to see what he's asked to do in the draft and in free agency. Probably similar to what the hell he did last year. And who actually came in to make sure Monken was hired? Tom Telesco. Andrew Berry didn't need no help hiring no goddamn Monken. They want to make sure that happened. Just like with Tomlin, they wanted to make sure Tomlin didn't draft Shedeur first round to be QB1. So what did they do? They sent Aaron Rodgers there. So just like they sent Aaron Rodgers there to block Shedeur, and Mike Tomlin got fired, didn't he? Regardless. Just like they sent Aaron Rodgers to block Shedeur. They sent Tom Telesco to make sure Monken got in. So Andrew Berry don't get no wild ideas. And maybe hire somebody else. Somebody that would actually want to win. See, it's not always about race, but it is about race for sure. It's also some of their moves is to make sure you get the right person in so we don't win right now. But would they do this to a white quarterback? No. So that's what makes it about race. Dylan could have been a white quarterback and they could use a white quarterback in Dylan's place to block Shedeur, but they didn't want to put a white quarterback through that. Remember Kirk Cousins when he got upset? Y'all lied to me. He was like, y'all have the audacity to pay me all this money to get me to come over here to Atlanta and make me QB2 behind Michael Penix Jr. Y'all must think I'm black. I ain't doing that. And then maybe he realized it wasn't just to suppress Michael Penix Jr. It was to push out the quarterback and the head coach. When you get paid all that money, you get paid for a reason. Even Cam Newton said, why are you complaining? Because they don't do that to them. Caleb Williams backup from a D2, D3 school, whatever it is. He didn't go to the Power 5. $10 million. Caleb just went to the playoffs, right? And ran for the Super Bowl bid till his receiver start running on his route, right? How many votes did Ben Johnson get for Coach of the Year? 1. Why? Because he had the audacity to try to win with Caleb when we paid his backup $10 million because we want to replace him. Audacity every single time. Every single time. Shedeur had the audacity to think he could change the culture of football. They heard the culture of something else. He had the audacity to think his skill set can control the outcome of a game when they control the outcome of the game. Remember Haslam to Coach Prime? Let's just say Shedeur has a good game. And what happened? It started off like trash. Then he had a good game, and they flipped the switch. So they have secrets they need kept. They have things they need executed. And all of the secrets and the things they want to execute have the foundation of racism against black quarterbacks. So I have to get the right quarterback, and I have to pay them money to go along with this while I rob a black quarterback, or I push black quarterbacks together on the same team, but on certain teams, I don't have any black quarterbacks. There's enough black quarterbacks that they should all be on all 32 teams. That's not the case. Instead, they started stacking them together like twins. Now they're stacking them together like triplets. That's what they're trying to do with Shedeur. The Browns have done it before. They want to keep doing it, which I suspect, which is why Kevin Stefanski got rewarded over in Atlanta, and that's what's getting ready to happen. They already using the same Stefanski speak, the same thing. Oh, we can win without the quarterback. Don't worry about who the quarterback is. So we already bypassing the quarterback in Atlanta, and we haven't even got to the goddamn combine. What people are seeing is now the real reasons about some of these changes that happen. It's not to build a better team. Maybe it was to get Stefanski out because he started talking about scripts and rewarding him because he know where the bodies are buried, and using him to do what he did. Hey, can you come over here to Atlanta and do to Michael Penix Jr. what you did to Shedeur? We know it's going to run off some of the black fans, but that's cool. Why lie? Why cover? That's all you seeing is covering. So, yes, the players are conditioned to submit for money, but the fans are also conditioned to accept racism that's happening right before their face, and they want to call it it. It ain't a it. It's racial discrimination, which brings me to Brian Flores. Everything I'm talking about today is connected. So Brian Flores' lawsuit has taken a step forward. And last we checked, we knew the arbitration process. The judge was not happy about it because she said it was a sham. It wasn't real. And having Roger Goodell to be a part of it was just some crap. So what she did was she said that since y'all don't have a real arbitration process, what you have is not a real process. We're going to let this go through U.S. federal court. So that's where it is. Now, what has transpired since then? All right. What has transpired since then is that we have a trial hearing. That's different. Now, if you pay attention, if you've been paying attention, Brian Flores was just made the highest paid defensive coordinator in the NFL. Why is that problematic? This man clearly, along with other colleagues from the NFL, have a class action lawsuit alleging that the NFL is rife with racism. And one tenet of that case is that the Rooney Rule is made a mockery of, and the interviews to hire black coaches is a sham, and that black coaches are bribed and or incentivized, depending on whichever words you want to ingest, to lose. So get this right. The Rooney Rule is a sham, and you're making a mockery of it. You're not serious about diversity. You already know who you're going to hire before you interview the black candidate. Did we not talk about McDaniel being used as a Rooney Rule black person and how they're moving away from a black person to biracial people because it fits, or a minority person because it fits, anything to push out the black people? We pointed out how they only fired black GMs. We pointed out how they fired coaches who had black starting quarterbacks. Why? So that the coach could come in and say, like Monken did, yeah, we gonna look at all the options. So I can overlook the current black QB1 or the best QB that I have that happens to be black. So I can manipulate the movements, the careers of the black quarterbacks of those coaches that were fired. They're entertaining bringing Gruden back. He was kicked out due to racism. So why are they entertaining bringing him back? Stefanski got fired and was accused of sabotaging Shedeur and abusing him, and he got a new job within 2 weeks. So do it again to another black quarterback that they already starting to talk the same type of, yeah, we don't have to worry about winning with the quarterback. So they want to bypass and make the quarterback irrelevant. When the quarterback is black, the quarterback is no longer the most important position on the team, which is now why you're starting to hear the salaries of non-quarterback players get up there. But when the quarterbacks were overwhelmingly white, they were the kings. But when they black, like Cam or Michael Penix Jr., we want to find a way to win without you. So you don't get the credit. So you don't get the glory. So you don't get the credit for leading the team to victory. Did Shedeur get the credit for putting them in the playoff hunt? Did the media excite the fans and say, yay, Shedeur Sanders got us in the playoff hunt with this win against the Vegas Raiders for the first time in XYZ? And if we beat the San Francisco 49ers and if we beat this other team, then we'll play so-and-so. Did they hypothesize over all of the draft scenarios? No, they were silent because they did not want Shedeur, a black quarterback to get them to the playoffs. They want to reserve that for someone else that they have already identified. And I have told you the dominoes are stacking. Some people call it anybody but Shedeur. No, 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 no. That's if you're new to the situation. Any quarterback that's not black. Right now, they have their sights set on Arch Manning. He was supposed to come out in 26. And now he coming out in 27. So when they trashed the Browns, Shedeur lured him in to make him believe they were going to draft him in the first round at number 2 overall and pay him $40 million. That's why that number keep coming up. That's why you heard people talking about getting Malik Willis for $40 million. They heard what Shedeur said and said, I'm going to show you. See, they still with it. Shedeur can't even tell his own truth because his truth is their damn lie. Nobody ever talks about Shedeur should have been number 17 to 32, and we should have been celebrating history with black quarterbacks becoming a majority at QB1s on 32 NFL teams. On 17 of 32 NFL teams. Nobody ever talked about it, which meant they knew and they didn't want to bring it up. Just like they knew Shedeur got them in the playoff hunt and they didn't have fun with it and get the fans all excited. So they didn't give a damn about the fans. They didn't give a damn about winning. They gave a damn about suppressing another black quarterback, which is why Deshaun Watson has never played the majority of games in any season since he has been there. And they used Deshaun as a scapegoat to say, yeah, we can't get another quarterback because we took a big swing and missed with Deshaun. So miss me with all of this talk about Deshaun is going to play this year. They said that toward the end of this year. And the insurance company is paying his damn salary. The fact that they would only talk about getting Dante Moore or Trinidad Shambliss or Malik Willis. What do they all have in common? They black. Why they don't talk about getting no white quarterbacks? Because they already know what white quarterback they want to get next year. So I just need a bridge. Why they can't just win for 1 year with their fans to do something nice for their fans? Because I don't want to win with him. And then if he go out here and win and the fans fall in love with Shedeur and Deshaun, I'm going to get the Manny kid next year. Everything is about getting a Manny kid next year. Suppressing the team from 23 to 24 to 25 because they already knew. They act like this kid being drafted first overall or going to Cleveland is his goddamn birthright. It is not. They sacrificing the damn integrity of the game for check down kings because they tired of athleticism from the Lamars and the Shedeurs and the Cam Wards. But they want the athleticism from Jackson Dart or Tyler Shaw to the point they're willing to manufacture it. All of it's rigged to support the racism. Yes, in Cleveland, it's anybody but a black quarterback, not Shedeur. But you have to be paying attention to what happened with Deshaun and Jameis Winston and Dorian Thompson-Robinson and PJ Walker, and the list goes on. To know it's not just about Shedeur. It's that 20 million people came with Shedeur and 40 million eyes can see. Brian Flores' lawsuit tells you it's not just about Shedeur. Saying the NFL is rife with racism. Alleging that not just making a sham of the interview process or the Rooney Rule. But he also, in his court documents, talked about black quarterbacks being discriminated against as well. And we saw that play out in the 25 draft with Shedeur. Look at how they lied to cover their racism. It was just racism. Should have just said, we don't want no more black quarterbacks. But then what would happen? Then they would go elsewhere and start their own league. And they can't have that, now can they? I can't have Shedeur taking his athleticism and the influence of his father and starting the prime time or prime football, something they already had. I can't have that because that's going to compete with what we have. So I have to draft to destroy, draft to suppress, draft to derail. So Brian Flores' lawsuit is correct. Because before Brian Flores' lawsuit that started in 2022, In 2021, the NFL settled a lawsuit for race norming where they alleged that Black NFL players, all of them, were dumber than white NFL players. Understand this. If you have a brain that functions, you know that they're saying Black people are dumber than white people. Because why is an NFL player's brain that's Black different from one that's white? It's not. But they clearly believe they don't believe in Black people other than to use them. And this is what Black fans have been suppressed into submitting to, because the information is public. So instead of it playing out quietly with Doug Williams or quietly back in the day with Gilliam or maybe with Donovan McNabb when they got him in the NFL, or Dante Culpepper when they pushed him down in college, instead of Terrell Pryor, when they switched him off from a quarterback to a wide receiver, of Michael Vick. Yeah, that picture that I posted of Michael Vick and Shedeur has multiple meanings. Michael Vick said the system is rigged. And what was he talking about? He was talking about the system of accountability in the NFL. How it is Brett Favre can still be a hero, but he's demonized. We talked about how it is that people had more vitriol for Michael Vick and Colin Kaepernick than they have for the folks in the E-Files that harmed children and unalived them. Black fans have been conditioned to accept the racism just like white fans. And the loudest voices are the ones that are racist. Oh, Shedeur isn't good. Oh, Shedeur can't come in off his father's DNA legacy, but the Manning kid can. The only reason they're not talking about it right now could be because Peyton Manning is somehow associated with the Epstein files after he was a offender registered. That's a problem. Or maybe it could be we don't want y'all to know that we're going to toss this season in the trash. Or excuse me, we already balled it up and tossed it in the trash. And we got Monken to make sure he suppressed Shedeur like he suppressed Lamar. And we sent Stefanski to suppress Michael Penix Jr. like he suppressed Shedeur. And on and on and on. So they sent Daboll over there to be with Cam after Daboll tried to destroy Shedeur. On and on and on. So yeah, the system is rigged, but it's rooted in racism. If Brett Favre were Black, he would not be a hero. But Roethlisberger won't, because he ain't Black. So why is it, if the system of accountability is fueled by racism, why the hell don't you think that the draft is fueled by racism? Because it is. People want to talk about, well, what about the other players? Let's talk about it. When I did my Around the League, let's take a look at it. I did an Around the League to show some of the transactions that were happening. I put up a post saying that, asking people, telling people I thought that the Browns should get Tyreek Hill, and I wanted to see what they thought. Now, some people liked it, and some people liked it, but some people didn't like it. So the people that like Tyreek Hill coming to the Browns know that he's talented, and they're like, cool. And I thought it was good because he's talented and he don't have a contract, and they could give him a deal, even if it's for 1 year. Because how long was Odell Beckham Jr. there? 1 or 2 years? So they could have did the same thing with Tyreek Hill, right? So people didn't like it because they kept talking about his injury. I'm like, well, Deshaun Watson coming off of an ACL injury, right? So is Pat Mahomes. So is Michael Penix Jr. You see the pattern here? How many white quarterbacks coming off ACL injuries? Name one. Joe Burrow had turf toe. Tyrod Taylor had his lung punctured by an NFL team doctor who apparently allegedly still works there. Guess they weren't worried about nobody else's lung being punctured. Why is it Taylor can't be a starting quarterback again? But when his lung was punctured, that's how Justin Herbert got the starting job, and he still has it. Why is it only Shedeur and Spencer Rattler and Anthony Richardson had to compete for the QB1 spot, But Jackson Dart didn't have to compete. And they wanted Cam Ward to compete with Will Levis, but Will Levis decided to have surgery. Why would the Titans want Cam Ward, their number one quarterback, that they paid $48 million to compete with the guy that failed last year? Why do you think a lot of these black quarterbacks went back to school? To the point, I don't know who coming out in the first round, which is why they tried to push out Trinidad Shambliss, which is why the little sham list that we went over yesterday has Juju at the 3 when he ain't coming nowhere near out of school. Marcel Reed, who's not even on the Heisman list, but we got Darian Minter at the bottom. We got Trinidad at the 4 when he should be at the 1, because guess what? He number 2 on the Heisman list behind who? The Manning kid. So if they derail Quinn Ewers, because he went to Texas and didn't want to be benched, what the hell you think they're going to do to Trinidad Shambliss if he came out this year? Or don't want to come out next year, but coming out next year with the Manning kid. That's why you have the sham list with Trinidad under the Manning kid, and the Manning kid has not proved he's number 1 or number 2. But they keep putting him there. Just like Dylan didn't prove he deserved to be on the Heisman stage, nor did he prove that he was better than Shedeur, but they put him there because that's where they wanted him. So the integrity of the game is questionable, and it's rooted in racism. What happened to Shedeur in the draft was not about his dad, because guess what? It happened to Lamar, and Coach Prime is not Lamar Jackson's father. But people want to forget that. They want to forget that's the same thing. Then they want to ignore why so many of the black quarterbacks that came out first over Heisman, like Caleb or Bryce Young, have been sacked excessively in an attempt to derail their careers. Sure, I paid you all this money, but you're going to pay the price for it. Cam Ward. So was Drake made collateral damage? Like Quinn Ewers, collateral damage, because I need to throw a white person in here because we're doing it to all the black quarterbacks? How is it the black quarterbacks are not the minority in the league? They're not the majority overall of all the quarterbacks, but they were the most sacked. We were tracking it during the season. That's just like there's only 2% of white people that live in Strongsville, Ohio, 2% of black people, but they were somehow getting all the tickets. It's the same thing. How is it that Myles Garrett and Shedeur Sanders, both the only Cleveland Browns players we've heard about, getting tickets and stopped in Strongsville, Ohio? How is it that Myles Garrett and only Shedeur, we heard about their homes being robbed? And I can't find no details on Myles Garrett. How was it the police knew it was a robbery for hire, but couldn't figure out who did the hiring? Cover up after cover up after cover up. So between the cover-ups and fans being lulled into submission to accept racism, including black fans, black players being forced into submission for money, we finally are getting somewhere where people are starting to see the problem, but it's still called it. When you want to call what happened to Shedeur racism, even though Brian Flores has the lawsuit out there alleging the racism, including the quarterbacks, even though the NFL settled $1 billion B for racially discriminating against all black NFL players, at some point, maybe you'll finally admit that what happened to Shedeur in the draft and what happened to Shedeur in Cleveland and his house being robbed was racism. Because the cover-up is covering up something. And what is it covering up? The racism. And who's behind it? There's no need for a cover-up if nothing was done. If it was just a legitimate random robbery, what's the need for the cover-up? How can you say that, yeah, we know it was a robbery for hire, but we don't know who did it? Okay. And now we got 3.5 million documents out here that prove that there's a lot of lies being told and a lot of covering up. And they're covering up a lot of dirt, a lot of wrongdoing, a lot of disgusting, nefarious behavior. And I don't think this is any different. And considering there are 9 NFL owners on the Epstein list and an NFL agent is on the record that the owners are incestuously close, and Peyton Manning is on that list and nobody refused to even talk about what it was or even clear it up, or maybe it was nothing, they just crickets. like it was when Shedeur got them to the playoff hunt. They don't talk about what they don't want to expose. It's all connected. There was racism in them 3.5 million documents. There's racism here. It's the same people. So Brian Flores lawsuit goes to court. Pre-trial hearing. Well, not pre-trial. I think it's a pre-trial hearing on April 3rd. So we'll definitely check back in with what goes on if they get there. Now, remember, they made him the highest paid defensive coordinator. And maybe that was supposed to make him drop his part of the lawsuit, but it's a class action lawsuit. So even if he dropped it, the others would probably still continue on and should, right? So maybe with this situation going to court, we can finally get to the part about the racism, the long-standing racism, and we can finally maybe discuss why it is they settled a $1 billion lawsuit violating Black people's civil rights because they said Black people are dumber than white ones. You cannot just isolate that to NFL players. If you thought that all Black NFL players, if you can say all Black NFL players are dumb, then you think their mamas and daddies are dumb too, and their children. And just like a lot of things that are happening right now are being suppressed in mainstream media, so was the outcome of that case. So then 2022, a year later, Brian Flores' lawsuit comes up, and this case been going on since 2022. And it's just now making its way to federal court. And they didn't expect that because they thought it would be suppressed by arbitration, which is why a lot of these players don't take action because they don't have any recourse. But for one of the first times that I can think of, people actively working in the NFL are going to federal court. It was even said that the collusion case that came out last year, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, and Russell Wilson should take that case to federal court now since the arbitration process was a sham. And since it came out that the head of the NFL Players Association was actually colluding with the owners on behalf of the owners and not the players, I think they should take it to federal court. So on April 3rd, it goes to federal court, I think, in the U.S. Southern District in New York. Now, mind you, the NFL could have easily gave Brian Flores his job back since they fired him for being a winning coach because he didn't take the bribe to lose. He was incentivized to lose. He didn't take the bribe. So he won, so they fired him. So instead of making him the highest paid defensive coordinator, why didn't they just give him his damn job back as a head coach? Because they were too busy out here firing Black head coaches. And they were trying to get to the Black head coach in Tampa, but he lived to see another day because then what would it look like if I only fire Black GMs, if I'm firing Black coaches and I'm suppressing Black quarterbacks? Then maybe people will realize that we're racist. They were doing all of that and didn't even give a damn about the lawsuit that they knew was sitting on the judge's desk. What does that tell you? We're going to still continue on. Despite the allegations of racism, we're going to keep being racist because our agenda supersedes all. So not only do I not want 17 of the starting quarterbacks on 32 teams to be Black, I'm only firing Black GMs, which means I'm reducing their numbers because it was only 9. Now 4, I think it's 4 gone. And they hired somebody and sent him to Atlanta, and he had never been a GM before, but he was Black. So that fits. Maybe we got some draft picks out of it. That fits, again, making a sham of the Rooney Rule, which is proving Brian Flores' case valid. However, have they stopped? No. We pointed out Shedeur got a $1 billion case with a B against the lawsuit based on the things that they have done recently and what they did to him directly in the draft and in Cleveland. I said they lucky he ain't sued them because somebody else probably would. And now that you know they can go through U.S. federal court, you still doing it. That's where anybody but Shedeur comes at in Cleveland, but it's really anybody but a Black quarterback. So it says a pretrial hearing has been set for April 3rd, 2026 in the of New York. It said the ruling applies to all claims brought by Flores and fellow coaches Steve Wilks and Ray Horton. This means their allegations against the NFL and the individual teams, including who? The Dolphins. Who did what this year? They used Tua's underperformance to fire a black GM rather than let McDaniel, who they eventually fired, bench Tua, who they eventually benched. The Dolphins, the Broncos. Remember Sean Payton at the time, how he treated Russell Wilson? Culture starts at the top. The Texans, CJ Stroud. The Cardinals, Kyler Murray. And the Titans, Cam Ward. Interesting. Will be handled in public judicial process rather than behind closed doors. Who did Deshaun used to play for? The Texans. Okay. There's enough evidence here just based on this information that has nothing to do with what we're talking about based on what they allege. It's all the same. It said public discovery. It said by moving to federal court, both sides can now use formal discovery tools to obtain documents and sworn testimony that will eventually become part of the public record. That part of the public record is what's new for the NFL. When they settled the $1 billion lawsuit for race norming, which came straight off the plantation, saying that black NFL players have a lower cognitive functioning than whites. Translation, all black people are dumber than white people. It didn't go to federal court because they settled it. Therefore, we didn't get to read the public record about the discovery. So they put a lid on it. And then the media didn't talk about it. And as you can see, they are very influential in the media. So this is huge. The pre-trial hearing, it'll be interesting, one, to see if they get there. I don't know how long it's going to take them, how long they have for their discovery period, but that's important too, right? Because the NFL gets to let's see what they put together for discovery. So the public discovery part is new. Part of the public record is new. Normally these things get squashed, like that collusion case did, where it was said the NFL was guilty of collusion, but the arbitrator said, well, yeah, but there's no damages. So that's like being a little pregnant. You pregnant or you're not? They're guilty of collusion, and they found a way to wrangle out of it by the way they phrased it in the media. They were guilty of collusion in January, but didn't discuss it till June, when they had manipulated the headlines and the narrative. Background of the case. Flores, currently the defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings, originally filed the class action lawsuit in February of 2022. He alleges systemic racism in the NFL's hiring and retention practices, specifically claiming he was subjected to sham interviews to satisfy the Rooney Rule. He alleged more than that. He included the quarterbacks. It said, they were asking me, was I interested in specific allegations against the individual teams? Yes, let's go. It said the Brian Flores lawsuit includes explosive allegations against several NFL teams, ranging from sham interviews to pressure to intentionally lose games. Now, at the part at the top, they didn't talk about that, did they? Because nobody wants to talk about this. If you are being accused of pressuring coaches to intentionally lose games, and this has also been alleged by Hugh Jackson, who was a black head coach for the Cleveland Browns, where they let Deshaun Kaiser go 0-16 with a team stacked full of talent. So see, Shedeur wasn't the only black quarterback to be in Cleveland on a team stacked with talent, and they didn't want to win. So this happened before Stefanski. What this does is it gives insight into the culture and the way they conduct business and why they hired somebody like Stefanski. And he was eager to abuse Shedeur because they hired someone who clearly might be, allegedly, the behavior that they exhibited appears to be racist. So I hired someone who would have absolutely no problem with dehumanizing a black quarterback. Just like they hired someone who had no problem being negligent in allowing another black quarterback named Deshaun Watson to get sacked 33 times in 7 games. That's excessive. But Joe Burrow got turf toe. Now, yesterday we talked about the culture, what's baked into the culture in Ohio, whether it's the Cincinnati Bengals or the Cleveland Browns. And we the Cincinnati Bengals have only had 2 black quarterbacks since 2002. It's 2026. And how the Browns have had a revolving door for black quarterbacks and all of their careers derailed or destroyed. Not a revolving door of success, a revolving door that shows a pattern of intentional destruction to the careers of black quarterbacks, which now makes you ask, why did the Browns choose to target Shedeur Sanders at number 2 overall? Why? If you've never drafted a black quarterback in the first round, and your pattern and your history towards black quarterbacks and you derailing them, devaluing them, shipping them off, or terminating them or cutting their contracts, if that's all you've ever done, then why the hell would you be interested in Shedeur to do exactly what you did? Get him at a deep discount and make his life miserable, make his life hard, abuse him, dehumanize him, and destroy him because you know he's black excellence. And most racists don't like that. That's why they never talk publicly about Shedeur going to Cleveland at number 2 overall. So when Shedeur brought up the $40 million, they set up in their chairs and they thought they would counter with, oh, well, put it out there. We just going to get Malik Willis for $40 million since he want to talk about it. Shedeur better tell his damn truth one day. Just like Deshaun better tell his damn truth one day. And all them other black quarterbacks over there in Cleveland better tell the truth one day. In fact, all them quarterbacks that was in Cleveland, half of them could have been in Cincinnati. But then again, they might have had the opportunity to play, and that clearly wasn't the point. But stacking them up together like twins and triplets and quads so they could not have the opportunity to shine or win, but for their careers to be terminated and derailed and destroyed. That was the goal. So the Browns function like some type of incinerator for black quarterbacks' careers, and they seem happy to do it. And they seem happy to do it because they taking those same black quarterbacks from other teams. And clearly they all decided that that's what they want. Because it's too many black quarterbacks, but we got to keep drafting them because we can't let them go off on their own and start their own shit. Well, that's just controlling, isn't it? And abusive, isn't it? You trying to control what you cannot. But instead, you're being exposed. I told you they already lost this fight. And Brian Flores lawsuit moving through the courts, federal courts. And now, April 3rd, with this hearing, we're going to see what happens. But notice, they don't seem deterred, do they? They don't seem deterred at all. So that's Brian Flores. April 3rd, put it on the calendar. We'll look into it. I'm going to put the link in the chat to the allegations so y'all can go watch it. I don't know if I can do that. Hold on one second. Let me go through this one with Miami. Flores alleges that Stephen Ross, the owner, offered him $100,000 for every loss during the 2019 season to improve the team's draft position. He also claims Ross pressured him into a tampering meeting with a prominent quarterback, widely reported as Tom Brady, on a yacht, which Flores refused. Flores asserts that he was fired for being non-compliant regarding these requests. The New York Giants, that's where he had a sham interview with the Rooney Rule. The Denver Broncos, it said 2019 interview, then GM John Elway and CEO Joe Ellis arrived an hour late and appeared completely disheveled and hung over from heavy drinking the night before. He claims it was clear the team never intended to consider him seriously. What did I just say about the Browns and Shedeur? You've never drafted a black quarterback in the first round. You already have Deshaun over there. You spent an extensive pre-draft process with Shedeur to draft him at number 2 in the first round. And then, oh, I forgot. We still have Deshaun. It's the same thing. No real intentions. That's called bait and switch. It's unethical in business and it is illegal, which is why they never talk about it. So when Shedeur mentioned the $40 million, they got plans. It's still trade Shedeur for me. But it's going to always be, can y'all please go start your own league and stop putting up with this bullshit? Trade Shedeur, because he ain't safe in Cleveland. The way they quit back about that same number of $40 million with Malik Willis, knowing he was black, tells you they got plans. They could have said 43 million. They could have said 35. They probably didn't mean none of it, but they wanted to send a message. We heard. And they have a I'll show you attitude. They already robbed his house. So Brian Flores lawsuit ties right in, even mentioned the quarterbacks being discriminated against as well in his lawsuit. It'll be interesting to see if they make it to the discovery phase, if they make it to April 3rd, circle calendar. So, all right, that's that on Brian Flores. So you can look that up. Just Google it, Brian Flores lawsuit, the latest, and you can kind of go into a deeper dive. You already heard me say Michael Vick said the system is rigged. He was talking about accountability, how it is Brett Favre is a hero, but he's being demonized. We can see villainized. We can see with Colin Kaepernick and both Michael Vick on how it is that they both have been shunned and blackballed and demonized for their situations. But when it came to the E-Files, only Jay-Z was unfollowed. None of the 9 owners were unfollowed. And Peyton Manning wasn't discussed or unfollowed or anything. It's just the black guy. Blame the black guy. So firing or winning Brian Flores because he didn't want to be bribed is blame the black guy. Blaming Coach Prime in the draft for not drafting Shedeur is blame the black guy. Blaming Shedeur, taking him off the board and saying he's entitled. 1, it's collusion. And 2, it's blame the black guy. And 3, it's covering racism. It's covering the plot was to stop 17 black quarterbacks from becoming the majority. So 16 was the number. Go back and listen to what the owner of the Browns said. If you would have told me he would have got drafted, I'd be like, listen to what he's saying. What time period is he talking about? The first round. Because they weren't going to let that happen. So it wasn't about Shedeur. They made Shedeur number 17 because the story fit. It fit. You don't know Jalen Milroe daddy. You don't know Cam Ward daddy. But they do know Coach Prime, and they saw it out, and it proves it. It proves it because what did they do? They lured them in and invited them to the Super Bowl in New Orleans to be around them like family and friends, something that they were accustomed to. And what did they do after that? According to Mel Kiper Jr., the NFL doesn't want quarterbacks, plural, like Shedeur Sanders, time frame now. Why? 17 of 32, because it had been discussed since 2020, the uptick in the number of black quarterbacks being drafted in the first round. So when they hit 16 with the 2025 draft and put Cam, a quarterback they rarely talk about, in that slot instead of Shedeur, and used the assault on him in college to knock him down a peg, to position him to go to Cleveland, who had never drafted a black quarterback, so they could drop him like a bad habit and humiliate him and stop it at 16 and show the world we ain't having the majority of the starting quarterbacks in this league to be black. That's what it is. It could have been Cam, but the story didn't fit. What was they going to say? He entitled? How we know? You don't even talk about it. You didn't think it was strange they never talked about the kid? But then when he got over there, that's when the bull crap started. I told you, they get you in college. They're going to get you pre-draft. They're going to get you in the draft, but they're going to get you in your career. Caleb Williams, Bryce Young, Justin Fields, Tyrod Taylor. I can go on and on and on. Shedeur Sanders, Jalen Milroe. That's evidence. But the fans, the black fans, are lulled into accepting racism. The white fans are lulled into, and some of them are fully aware of what's going on, into racism. Some of them are perpetuating it with their conversations that they have some on these platforms. You can tell. Never have anything good to say about Shedeur. It's all bad and it's all his fault. No, it's their racism. Somebody asked me yesterday, why did I give a damn about a black kid being used as the face of the cartel money story when it was about a Mexican drug cartel? Why on earth did you just not put a picture up of school? Did you feel the need to protect the school? Do your kids go there? So you don't want to throw a school under the bus. So let me just throw a black person under the bus. If you know who the comedian Ali Sadiq is from Houston, I just listened to his interview on 400 Degrees with Matty Fresh and Juvenile. Yes, I'm from New Orleans. They asked him about the Mexican wearing boots stories. Mexican got on boots. That's a skit. That's a story that he talks about when he first was incarcerated. There was a riot. And way you know there's going to be a riot is you say, oh, Mexican got on boots because Mexicans don't wear boots on the yard. So he said, well, I never told this part of the story. Yes, there was a riot. The person, whoever was running around saying Mexican got on boots was correct. So he learned what it was. And he learned that his cellie, who told him, even he was like, so I'm your cellmate. You still gonna, eat me? He said, well, if I catch you in the yard, I am. So basically, they were united and divided by race. The white inmates hung with the white inmates. The Mexican inmates hung with the Mexicans, and then the blacks hung with the blacks. That's how he described it. And he went on to tell this part he never heard, because I've heard the Mexican have on boots story multiple times. It's hilarious. But this part wasn't funny, but it told me that even in the criminal justice system, where you put all the criminals, you still racist. So he said they hogtied all of them after the riot. Everybody, hands behind your back, feet to your hands, hogtied. And he said they left them out there for hours. He said they came and got the white inmates first. A couple hours, they came back later and got the Hispanic inmates. He said they left us out there, the black inmates, the longest, so much that this one guy had to go make water, and he had to go on himself because they left them out there for over 6 hours, the black inmates. I'm like, damn, even in jail, what are we doing? It's everywhere. So I don't know why it is black fans and decent fans don't think it's happening, and that's not what happened to Shedeur in the draft. That's what happened to Shedeur in the draft. That's what happened to Lamar in the draft. And I have a theory beyond 17 to 32 that the more melanated they are, the worse they get treated. There's many a brown skin black people will tell you that they were treated horribly because they're brown skin. I don't see it being no different in the NFL. Look at Tyrod Taylor. Lung punctured. Look at Lamar, how he was injured, hit in the back, and his teammate stepped and crushed his ankle. Look at Shedeur, how they ripped his nail off his own goddamn teammate. They get abused physically as if somehow their skin is darker, and either they really hate it and they try their best to hurt them. That's what bothers me. But then Michael Penix Jr., who's lighter, he got 2 ACLs, but they ain't no better. Then Pat Mahomes, who's biracial, got ACL. And what Joe Burrow got? Turf toe. Still waiting on y'all to tell me how many white quarterbacks are out with ACLs. I looked at the injury list of all the quarterbacks. And like I said, the browner they are, the worse they are injured. Some people might think 2 ACLs is actually worse, and that what happened to Deshaun is worse than what happened to Shedeur. I don't know. I don't know, because having your goddamn fingernail ripped off, and then by being by your own damn teammate, and it's on camera, and your daddy's sitting there, and the world is watching, and you already humiliated me. I don't know. I just don't know. But this time you tore my ACL. That's one time. That's a hit. That's out. Tyrod Taylor, a lung puncture. Do you know how long of a needle you have to use to puncture somebody's lung? You giving a routine pain injection. You supposed to be done this. You a doctor, and they don't fire the doctor. And Tyrod Taylor can never get his job back, but he had to sue. It's documented on the NFL website. It said that Shedeur should basically be complacent with a career as a backup. So that's why they keep drafting him. So they don't go somewhere and start their own, and the money is supposed to lull him into a sense of financial security. Well, Shedeur is already wealthy. So that don't work for him, but maybe it does work for somebody else who didn't come from wealth. And maybe that is why they don't want Shedeur, because he's wealthy. And he's not going to submit. And he don't need the security of the money to give up his dream of being a quarterback in NFL and leading and changing teams to win for money, because he got money. It's still racist. It's all racist. So the next part we're gonna look at is the around the league part with some of the transactions that we talked about. We talked about Tyreek Hill. And at first, I said I wanted him to come to the Browns, right? But then there were more transactions after that, and then I started to see a pattern. So let's talk about that. I'm going to share it on the screen. Oh yeah, maybe we'll get to Chiron Moore and I'll tell you how he's apparently set up. And maybe you'll see some of the Brian situation in that Brian Banks. But that situation is shocking and there's some questions there. All right, so on the screen you see around the NFL. So on this list, I did not put Tyreek Hill because we had already discussed Tyreek Hill, right? But I said Tyreek Hill should come to the Browns. Now, with Tyreek Hill being released, he had some money that was guaranteed. If he was still on the team, he would have gotten it. And so there was some money left on the table, maybe like $19 million, something like that. Now let's move on to who's on the list and put Tyreek in your mind above it. Next, Denzel Ward on the Browns projected cut list. So I had to look into why this would even be a possibility. So I looked up his contract. And in his contract, he has 2 years left, which is about $34 million. He have a $100 million contract. It's through 2027. But they want to not trade him. They're suggesting to cut him. So they release Tyreek Hill. They did trade him. They're suggesting, now Tyreek Hill's good, and I knew he kind of wanted out of Miami. So I didn't really see anything there other than he got his wish because it was dysfunctional over there. Seemingly it's dysfunctional everywhere. Then Denzel Ward. I'm like, why the hell would you want to cut Denzel Ward and not trade him? He got 2 years left on his contract. He's a high performer. Y'all had the number 2 defense. He was a part of that. So why wouldn't you just trade him? Why would you just cut him and cost him $34 million? Because he was on his way to $100 million. That's what the contract was for. It's 2 years. They still need him, but they want to cut him. And I was like, that's right. That's right. Denzel Ward took up for Shedeur and said he's ready. He did really good. He's developed. Yeah, he's ready to go. And after that, he got benched. And they put a nickelback in his place, who they also were trying to use and take advantage of his lack of experience. But that nickelback got smart in the next game because they had him mismatched with an Amazon of a player for Chicago. But the following game, he was on it. And guess what? He got benched. Then Denzel Ward could come back. Then he changes his tune and starts saying, no, Stefanski, it's not just all on Stefanski. I'm like, oh, okay, you're going to learn. You're going to learn. When they out here mistreating people that look like you, then you get benched for it because you stood up for the people that look like you. The same thing happened in Atlanta. And you start backpedaling to cover for them, you're going to learn. And now they want to cut him. Not trade, cut. Now, mind you, he's been in the league, 9 years, something like that? Now, understand this. Who else is on the list? Let's look at who else is on the list. So, Browns paused the decision on Joel Bitonio, who was expected to retire on 2/17. In fact, a post with over 300,000 views shared that Bitonio had retired. Come to find out, he didn't. They seem to be having trouble parting ways with the Dirt Dive. In fact, the leader of the Dirt Dive. But you have no problem. You don't want to trade. You have no problem cutting Denzel Ward, but you just cannot let go of Joel Bitonio. Now, between the two of them, when it comes to the performances, who the hell would you keep? Denzel Ward. But they want to cut Denzel Ward and leave $34 million on the table and send him out there to fend for himself, and he probably going to get devalued on his next contract. And he ain't get $34 million. But they can't bear to let go of the Dirt Diver or the leader of the Dirt Divers. Just like they couldn't bear to cut Stefanski. The owner did not want to get rid of Stefanski. He said, no. Stefanski's not going anywhere. He did real good for us. We like, where? Where? Intimidating the locker room, retaliating against people. So between the two, on the Browns team, who would you rather have? Denzel Ward or Joel Battaglia? Drop it in the chat, and we're going to get to it in a minute. I got 2 topics left. All right, so Denzel Ward on the Browns projected cut list. Tyreek Hill released, no contract. He done. Let somebody pick him up. Browns paused decision on Joel Battaglia, who was expected to retire on 2/17. They came bear apart with the dirt diver. And the Ravens. Now, y'all know the Ravens gave how many year veteran? How many years has what's his name? Mark Andrews, the one who cost the Ravens the AFC Championship game? Him. He got a $39 million contract. He been in the league about 8 years or something like that. Oh, he been with the Ravens, I think 8 years. He's 30. Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett, all of them must have came in about the same time because they like 29, 30. He got a $39 million contract after failing the team and losing the AFC Championship. And people say he was greatly rewarded, just like Stefanski, right? And what did Stefanski and Mark Andrews ultimately their behaviors do? They suppressed black quarterbacks. They kept Lamar from getting closer to the Super Bowl, and Stefanski kept Shedeur from being QB1, which is why they had instructions for Mike Tomlin to draft Shedeur and put him at the 2. They even came out and said the coach that drafted Shedeur in the first round gonna get fired. That's how serious they were with their racism from holding this kid back. It wasn't just him. They had already handled Miro in college, so there was no need to talk about him. He already came into the whole combine situation at the 2nd round, but he didn't get drafted to the 3rd. So they still got him. Then we have Mark Andrews getting $39 million with $26 million guaranteed, right? Ravens Isaiah Likely, who's only 25 years old, wasn't offered a contract extension despite being tight end 1. What is Mark Andrews? A tight end. So if Isaiah Likely is tight end 1 and he's only 25 and he did really good and we don't want to keep him, it's likely because we gave the one who's not a tight end 1 all the money. Why? Why would you give Mark Andrews, who failed, $39 million with 26 guaranteed? In fact, you gave him so much money, you ain't got no money for Isaiah Likely, so he gonna have to get lowballed. Racism. Tell me that ain't what it is. Notice this is where Monkey came from. Now, they say they want to get a contract together for Lamar, right? Let's see what that looked like. Because they gave the money for the tight ends to Mark Andrews, so they don't value Isaiah Likely. Let's see if Isaiah Likely comes over to replace Njoku. I doubt it. Because Harold Fanning Jr. was devalued in the draft to the 3rd round. That kid clearly is not a 3rd round tight end. I bet he don't make $39 million because he on a rookie deal. So the Browns getting Isaiah Likely for real money ain't going to happen. They don't even want to pay Denzel Ward the money they already promised him because his contract is guaranteed. But I guess if they cut you, they don't have to give it to you, which is weird. That ain't how guarantees supposed to work. And it looked like Denzel Ward even took a prorated signing bonus that he get $4 million a year over several years. That ain't what signing bonuses are. That's why Travis Hunter got his money up front. So you did all of that. You didn't get your signing bonus up front, which means you should have. You stood up for Shedeur, and then you decided to cover for Stefanski. And here it is, they want to cut you. Not trade. Cut. Which means you got to go out here and pay an agent for your next contract. And you probably ain't going to get what you had in Cleveland. Because the way they like to collude, they cut you for a reason. And you did what they wanted you to do. See, don't never cower to these people. This is why you don't do it. And we see this over and over and over. Shout out to Travis Hunter for getting his money up front rather than $4 million a year to sign with somebody. That ain't how signing bonuses work. That's why you can't just accept anything they give you because it's not in your best interest. And why make it easy for them when they're about to make Denzel Ward life hard and toss him out there to go, oh, you want to keep working here? Well, let's see where you land and let's see how much you get. Devalue. They opened the door for him to be devalued because if he would have stayed there, his contract was already in place. So if I cut him, he got to go figure it out. This was the number 2 defense, and he's a part of that. You see? But then they can't part ways with Joel Bitonio, who should have been forced to retire. And there were no consequences for dirt diving. And you do not hear the Browns talking about wide receivers. But it has been pointed out that the entire O-line is set to be free agents. Good. But since they don't want to part ways with Bitonio, I have no hope that they don't want to part ways with the rest of them. So stay tuned for that. They said the Ravens extend 30-year-old, he is 30-year-old Mark Andrews to 3 years, $39 million and $26 million guaranteed. They made sure they didn't have no money for Isaiah Likely. Isaiah Likely is the one who should have got that ball at the end of that game, but they made sure that didn't happen, just like they made sure there ain't no money left for him. What the hell did he do? Just walked into the situation and still getting thrown to the wind. So now he going to have to figure something out. Let's see what happens to him, because he don't have a contract extension yet. Let's see who pick him up. Yep. So there you go. That's that. So now that you put Tyreek Hill at the top of this list, no contract, not picked up anywhere. He got to start over. Let's see how much he get. Denzel Ward. Let's see what happened with him. Joel Bitonio and the entire O-line, free agents. Let's see what happened with him and them. Isaiah Likely. Let's see what happened with his contract since he didn't get an extension. Probably because there ain't no damn money left, because they gave it all to right here, number 4, Mark Andrews, who didn't deserve it. How you give somebody that's going to be $39 million? And why did you give him that money? Why did they reward Stefanski? Why did they, for failing? Why did they reward Mark Andrews for failing? Mark Andrews, it's reported 5 years ago, was going missing in big games. So that wasn't his first failure, but he sure got rewarded for it, just like Stefanski. And fans are paying for this. That's who's paying for this. So that was the around the league, the pattern I wanted y'all to see. You know what's going on with Denzel Ward and Isaiah Likely kind of look like, don't they? I don't mean similar in features. I meant color. They both black. And then you see how they treat Bitonio and Mark Andrews, who both failed. You see how they upgraded and rewarded Stefanski. They're all white. So the white players and coaches are being rewarded, while only black GMs, black coaches. Atlanta hired Stefanski, who had a worse record than Raheem Morris. Stefanski had 6 years. Raheem Morris only had 2. So this little list right here, Tyreek Hill is black, Denzel Ward is black, and Isaiah Likely is black. And they all in the win, aren't they? But Bitonio's being coddled. Mark Andrews got all the money, so there's nothing to give to Isaiah Likely. So that means the Browns, the Ravens aren't serious about winning either. Because how did you give all the money to the guy who's not tight end 1? And what did the Browns do? Cut their second best tight end, and they don't have nobody. Who they gonna go with? The one that ripped Shedeur nail off his finger? If I had to wager, that's what I would say. Let's see what happens. I ain't. So let's just let it ride. Just let it ride. So that's where we are with the around the league. And I told you everything we talked about today is relative, because, and it's all racism, because even on this little short list right here, with just the beginning transactions that they're having with people who are free agents, Denzel, Tyreek Hill, Isaiah Likely, when Michael Vick says the system is rigged, he was talking about the system of accountability. Well, what we're looking at right here kind of speaks to that, because Mark Andrews wasn't held accountable. In fact, he's been rewarded, and they can't bear to part ways with Joel Bitonio, who should have faced consequences for being on camera dirt diving, and he's supposed to be the leader of the O-line, and he was leading a bunch of dirt divers. So they were following him too? Where's the accountability? So Michael Vick is correct. The system is rigged. And then the black guys can't even get paid, but then only the black GMs could get fired, and, you know, on and on and on. Racism is in every aspect. That's what we're seeing. So let's move on to Chiron Moore, who not even in the NFL. And this ties right on in to the same things happening in college, or some of the same things happening in the NFL, and how with the little sham list we've seen with them propping up Arch Manning, giving him something he didn't earn, acting like being drafted or in the first round or the Heisman is his birthright when it's not. We're talking about Black college players being set up so their careers are derailed before they even get to the NFL. All right, so Chiron Moore, in his case, let's see right here. That's Michael Vick. Close that one out because we finished with Vick. Okay, so right here on the screen, we have, I looked up the latest in Chiron Moore's case, right? Somebody posted on X, shout out to Robert Little, BSO, don't know who that is. He reported that Chiron Moore charges may be dropped. So, of course, I wanted to look into that and verify it for myself. I didn't just want to repeat what I read. So, hence, I did what I always do, research, right? So, it says right here that the most recent developments in former Michigan football coach Chiron Moore's legal case involve a significant court ruling on February 17th, where a judge granted his defense's team's request for an evidentiary hearing. This follows his arrest in December 2025, shortly after being fired by the university. All right, before we get into this, if you're new to us or if you don't know, Chiron Moore was a head coach of Michigan, and it was said in Harbaugh's contract that he, after the cheating scandal, it was in the contract of the coach Harbaugh who left us in the NFL, not the one that was with the Ravens in New York, but his brother that's with the Rams, the Chargers, I think. It was in his contract as he was leaving that Chiron Moore was to be the head coach. So it's like he inherited the position. And I'm sure this made Chiron Moore feel all kind of special that these white people put him in the directives of that he's supposed to be the coach. So he's married to a white woman, and she was pregnant at the time, or just had a kid, or had a kid and pregnant, right? But he ends up having an affair, allegedly, with this white woman who worked for Michigan. But the kicker is who she is. Her father is a scout for the NFL, for the Bears to be exact. And she'd been to LSU and here, there, and other place. And she somehow conveniently ends up working for Chiron Moore, the person whose name was left and cared for to be the next head coach. Why did the Michigan team do that? Because Chiron Moore was responsible for bringing over Bryce Underwood to Michigan. So they knew that if they made Chiron Moore the head coach, they would likely keep Bryce Underwood. We talked about Bryce Underwood the other day because he was hanging out with some of his so-called friends and teammates, and they apparently was smoking on something. And somebody had their phone out, and somehow what was recorded was shared, and he in trouble. Now, it was a lot of them, but he the only one whose name I heard is in trouble. He's the only one who listed and shared publicly on X an apology for his behavior. This kid was going to leave Michigan. After they fired Chiron Moore, he was going to leave Michigan. He has a $10 million contract for a number of years with them. So he decides to stay. And I said he should get the hell on. He decides to stay. The next thing you know, he hemmed up. Hanging out with some guys that he clearly trusts because none of them had on the shirt. They was in the locker room apparently. And here we go. And I'm like, how much you want to bet that this going to cost him some of that $10 million? This is why he should have left. But anyway, here we are. So Chiron Moore is in court after apparently he was fooling around with the other white lady. So married to a white lady, cheating with a white lady that magically shows up on his doorstep at Michigan. And they saying he was stalking her and did all these things. And come to find out, a lot of what was reported is not true. So, but the kicker, and I said this, when I heard about Chiron Moore, I went live with a bonnet on my head. I said, how much you want to bet this is so he can lose his $14 million buyout? Black college coaches and buyouts. That's going to be a whole video, whole live stream, because they want Coach Prime to quit. They don't want to give him his buyout of $44 million by firing him. So Chiron Moore has been set up, and it has now been proven. So let's talk about what the setup looks like. And then the question is, how long y'all been setting him up? Is her working there was always a setup? Because if you lied about this and you lied about that, then how did she really get there? Remember what happened to Mel Tucker? How did he get with that lady that set him up? She was also white. And Brian Banks, star athlete at 16, committed to USC verbally, ends up being accused of rape, and it was false. And 10 years later, she wants to confess it was false after his life was derailed. This doesn't seem to happen to Black athletes in any other sport. This don't seem to happen to people who play golf. It don't happen to swimmers. It don't happen to people who play pickleball. It only happens to football players. The same group of people, the same sport, which is the only sport that people whine and complain about NIL. And all we know about football, be it pro or college, is the majority of the players are Black. See the pattern? All right, so let's read some of this because this is very interesting. All right. It said this followed his arrest in December, shortly after being fired by the university. So once the university fired him, and the way supposedly that the affair came out is weird in itself, they said he supposedly ordered, or somebody from his office ordered a pregnancy test, and it was delivered to his office. And the DoorDasher that delivered it thought the order was strange because they picked it up, so they knew what it was. So they went and told somebody in the provost's office. And I'm like, time out. How is it if you deliver something to an office, do you know who exactly this item is for? Even if he ordered it, what if it was for his daughter or somebody? I don't know, right? So that was weird in itself. So there was already some weird things. Then Michigan seemingly never fired the woman he got caught cheating with, but they both cheating, right? They wasn't supposed to be fraternizing at the workplace, and he was married. And even if she wasn't, she knew he was married, but they didn't want to hold her accountable, which in itself was strange. And then it was strange that they said the way he was at her house trying to off her and himself, supposedly that's not true. And what came out was that Michigan, before they fired Chiron Moore, already knew that he would be replaced because they were already interviewing other people for the job. So before they fired him for cheating with this chick, they was out here interviewing other people on the low, saying, hey, we got a job opening coming. Yeah, don't worry about that. We gonna fire him. Let us talk to you. So you knew what he was doing. You knew he was gonna fire him, and you waited until after the recruiting cycle to get those players in while he's the coach. And then you fire him. And then what did I say? They conveniently fired him, even though they knew what was going on, and they used it to their benefit, and they don't have to pay him his $14 million because they took his buyout because they fired him because of the affair. I'm like, now how long has this been set up? Facts, right? And then I was thinking to myself, and I said, if it comes out that he was set up, does he get his $14 million? That's a valid question because that's what they took away. And when they fired him, they got the recruits, and they fired him conveniently before the Cheetos Bowl, whatever that was they was playing in. Guess who they were playing in that bowl? Whatever bowl game they were going to. They were playing the University of Texas, Arch Manning. So I said, oh, wait, I see what's going on here. They done disrupted Bryce Underwood and the Michigan team by conveniently firing the coach after they got the recruits in for the next year. And they conveniently disrupted the Michigan team so they would go in here and lose to UT. And that's what they did. So Bryce Underwood would not beat Arch Manning. So Arch Manning could make the list I showed you yesterday, sitting at the 1 for the Heisman and at the 2 for the best quarterback. You see how many people get burned because of this kid? Not because of the kid. I like Arch Manning. Because of the people around this kid and the plot to make it seem like it's his birthright. You see what's happening? So let's talk about that. That was some context so you can know what's going on. So let's talk about what took place in court and what has come out. So recent court developments. Evidentiary hearing granted. Judge J. Cedric Simpson scheduled a new hearing for March 2nd to investigate potential due process violations during Moore's arrest. So there's an issue with the arrest. Let's take a listen. There was also a glaring omission by the police. The judge expressed serious concern that the detective who obtained Moore's arrest warrant failed to disclose that Moore and the alleged victim had a professional employer-employee relationship. So they made it seem like he was a rando, and he wasn't. They had a professional employer-employee relationship. That was important to know when securing the warrant, because if they work together, maybe there's something else going on here. But they clearly set it up that way so they could get what they needed without being honest about what's going on. The defense argument. Moore's attorney, Ellen Michaels, argues that many of the calls and texts cited as stalking were actually work-related calls between Moore and his executive assistant during business hours. So she say her boss stalking her, but he texting her during business hours about work. So she used the work text against him, and they didn't want to fire this one. Status of charges. While the hearing is a tactical win for the defense, Moore still currently faces felony charges of home invasion, stalking, and illegal entry. Now, supposedly, he had a key to her house because they were cheating. I don't know how true that is, but when they get to this hearing, I guess we'll get there to find out. Now, stalking was on the list, but they already saying that it wasn't stalking. So there's two things that have a question mark. Home invasion, did he have a key? Because they were cheating. Stalking, was it just work communicate? And then illegal entry. So it looked like they were stacking up the charges to make sure that he would rise to a felony and couldn't be a problem to come back on them, right? To kind of erode any credibility that he has. Now, one of the things I said after he got arrested was, I want to see if they're going to help him get out of this, because the goal wasn't to ruin his life, but the goal was sure that he got fired before this bowl game and he did not get his $14 million buyout. Humiliation, in other words. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to show you. If they so racist, why were they okay with him being married to a white woman and dating a white woman on campus? They weren't. At all. What did the Barclays owner say about why they not listed in the ad? Something about it's a bunch of black men running around with white women, and Jay-Z them bought them off. That tells you they don't care for that. But they used it to their advantage. And the taking of his buyout was to humiliate him, and all of the charges too. So what he needs to find out is how far back, how did this woman get to this situation? That's a valid question, because it seemed like you were a little baited in, but you know, it happened right down the street at Michigan State. So I don't know how he didn't see it. Background on fire and arrest. Termination. Michigan fired Moore for cause. So when they fired him for cause, they had just cause to take his $14 million. On December 10th, 2025, citing credible evidence of an inappropriate relationship with a female staff member for allegedly lying during the university's internal investigation. Now, understand this. When you listen to people who work in academia, they tell you this will happen all of the time. But just like Michael Vick said, the system is rigged on who's held accountable and who's not. It's funny how the black coaches get held accountable for it, but the white coaches get away with it. You want me to believe that none of these white coaches cheated with their staff members? They said this happens all the time. But they used it to their advantage because they were done with him. We got Bryce Underwood. You can go and let me have my $14 million because I ain't give you that either. And by the way, we're going to wreck your life. Here you go. Same thing with Coach Brian. Travis gone. Okay, you took Travis from PWI. You brought Travis back to PWI. We brought you over here. You brought him over here. He gone. You could go, and it's best that he quit because we don't want to give you your $44 million. So we don't want to give you your buyout, Coach Prime, and we're not giving Chiron Moore his buyout. What the hell did Coach Prime do? Just be black. And they don't want these black coaches in college football, just like they don't want a majority of the black starting quarterbacks to be on NFL teams. It's racist. It's the same thing. And everybody that wants to work for these people need to understand what it is. And the fans who are paying with time and money that are also supporting it need to understand what it is as well. When I watch the Browns, I don't watch the Browns hopeful that they're going to do the right thing, because I see what it is. The pattern, the evidence is there. I watch the Browns make sure Shedeur going to be safe, and hopefully he have a good time along the way, making delivering a message out of a mess, making lemonade out of lemons. I would be a fool to think any of it is on the up and up. Not when I see the pattern between college and the NCAA and the NFL. The pattern is there with the whole sham list. And what happened with Shedeur? It's like it's spelled out for you. But it's up to you if you want to see it, because some people just want to enjoy football and have something to talk about. That's just what it is. So, Chiron Moore, we got to stay tuned with him to see what's going to happen with his situation, because seems like he been lied on. and it fits right with what I said, just what happened to the other guy. But here's the thing. He's guilty because he fell for the bait. But the question is, was it entrapment? If I'm not mistaken, Mel Tucker is suing because of that. Like he was lured or entrapped. So Chiron Moore could. So the question is, with all of these falsehoods coming out, it should make him look to see if he was set up with her in the first place, like Brian Banks was set up. So the last thing I want y'all to read. I told y'all I was going to go back and check the petition. It's at 942. They never made it to 1,000. People, everybody got a lot to say, but I guess everybody didn't want to sign it. I put the link in the comments so people could sign it. I thought it would be nice to get up to 1,000, but whatever. It's going to happen one way or the other. That's the one thing about it. It's going to happen one way or the other. So I am reading to you all some of the comments that were left in the petition so y'all can see. It's called Voices. So they gave people an opportunity who completed the petition to share how they feel about accountability in some of the issues with the Browns. And mind you, the petition was open to anybody to sign. So let's just read it, right? The first person I got to it said, a call for responsible ownership and accountability for the Cleveland Browns. So we'll just read a few. It said, I was a season ticket holder for a decade and bought into the struggling 1-31 rebuild, knowing that we were geared towards the future, but ownership can never get out of its own way. Facts. It said, I refuse to attend another Browns game, buy Browns gear, or even cheer for the team until Haslams are removed. Now, this sentiment right here is where everybody needs to meet up. Everybody needs to meet up. They'd already changed coaches. The Shedeur files pointed it out. They still on the same BS with anybody but Shedeur with monkey. So now it's time for everybody to meet up around new ownership and the Haslams to be removed. That's what this petition is geared towards. So I totally agree with Tyler. Next is, and they need to pay for what they did to this young man, especially Kevin Stefanski. So somebody named Dolores said they need to pay for what they did to this young man, especially Kevin Stefanski. It's nice to see somebody speak up about Shedeur in a petition. Now, this person left the video. It wasn't that long. He just basically said the media was toxic. His name is Patrick. It said, I sold my season tickets, PSLs last year after 20 years. Now, football is fun. When it's just pure, it's competition is fun, right? And many of us grew up on that, so I can understand what these people are saying. So they had PSLs after 20 years. Next year never comes for the Browns. In other words, we'll do better. He or she is saying it never comes with the Browns. We need a new owner. Once again, echoing that sentiment, no new stadium in the NFL as a whole is getting to woke and turning off. No new stadium in the NFL as a whole. People are starting to wake up and it's turning them off, and many others. So a lot of people are starting to be turned off by the NFL. It said Roger Goodell is ruining the NFL, and Jimmy Haslam has already destroyed probably the Browns. So that's Daniel. I agree with Daniel. And then it says, I have been a diehard Browns fan since I was old enough to understand the rules of professional football. The current ineptitude of this ownership, again, meeting at the center of ownership, this is good. This is really good. It's not just about Shedeur, it's about racism. And the culture starts at the top, and it's about the owner. It says, the current ineptitude of this ownership has pushed me over my personal line. And for multiple reasons, I will no longer be spending a single penny of my hard-earned dollars on this franchise. Shout out to Lenny. Two people liked it. It said, I have been a Browns fan for 50 years, grew up in Youngstown, Ohio, cheering for the Browns. The dysfunction with this team's front office has to stop. It said the NFL should hold ownership accountable. I believe it also starts with the draft. Woo! There you go. And it said our picks seem like they always miss. And Barry needs to, yada, yada, yada. Stephen. So again, long-standing ownership. Long-standing folks see that it needs, the ownership has to go. So let me see. There's that one more. Okay, here's another one. It said the team is entering their 27th year since coming back to the league in 1999. It has been a laughingstock of the NFL since then. The Haslams need to let football people make football decisions and quit butting in. All right, so we're going to stop it right there. That was Matthew. So you heard from long-standing people, and the conversation keeps coming back to ownership, which is the center and the crux of all of this. It doesn't matter if their motivation is racism or betting or fixed games. It don't matter. The point is it rests and it starts with who? The owner. And when people finally move past anybody but Shedeur, right? When you move past that narrative into seeing the 17-32, and this is happening against all black quarterbacks. And then when you look at the black quarterbacks that have been to Cleveland, and you look at the black quarterbacks that haven't been to Ohio and how they being stacked up on teams, you come back to ownership of the Browns. And then when you look at what happened to Shedeur in the draft, you come back to the NFL itself. Now, we already at that point, at the you are here, that what it really is, that is racism and it's widespread. And that the Browns seemingly are some type of incinerator or receptacle for black quarterbacks' careers, which is why people are so disgruntled, because they're not trying to win. But they have their eyes fixed on somebody who they think is their great white hope. And they're willing to shun and destroy every black quarterback in the process of getting that person, regardless of when that takes place. When people get there and meet at the conversation about new ownership and the NFL itself and the commissioner, then we're going to get somewhere as fans. But until then, we just at the bottom of a pyramid scheme. All right, so I'm headed over to the comments to see what y'all are thinking, because all of it ties together. It all ties together that it is rigged. It's not just a system of accountability, or you can look at the system of accountability and see that on the base and the foundation of that system is racism, and it's the same racism that the quarterbacks have been enduring and still are. It was never about Coach Prime. So he's a scapegoat, and he used to work for them. Remember that. It said, welcome back to the Fly Show on the internet. Thank you so much. Please like and subscribe. Yes, please take a minute. There are 134 of us. Hit the like button for me, please. I appreciate it. Hey, Anna, how you doing? Welcome. It said, remember, promises are like pie crust, thin, easily broken. Facts. And it seems like the fans see through the thin pie crust, and they out. They like, we need new owners. So we'll see what happens. If you notice, that was the reigning theme for the people who signed the petition. So I think that's pretty good. So I put the link, add your name to the Browns fans petitions for accountability. This is the place to be. Yes, the facts. Hey, Tina. Hey, Tamika. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. Hey, Nisi. It's that grand evening. What she said, chatted family, ready to learn. Thank you, Crowley. Thank you. Yeah, that was a lot of information today, but it all tied back together. It said, I haven't heard anything for the John Gruden lawsuit lately. No, I haven't heard anything about that one. I haven't been following that one. I guess I thought once. Oh, you meant that he was suing the NFL? No, I haven't followed that one. I could look into it though, but I don't really think it matters, because they were clearly trying to hire him for the head coach of the Jets or the offensive coordinator of the Jets, and he declined. I'm like, why did he even get that option? So, yeah, we'll see. But yeah, maybe that's something to bring up to see where that situation is. But the fact they were trying to give him a job with the Jets was insane to me, considering he got kicked out the league for being racist amongst other things. And they have a black head coach. I think it tells you how they feel about their black head coach. Aaron Glenn, who said he was thinking of stepping down because he don't see a road for them to win, a path for them to win, because there is none. There is none. That's just what it is. It said they will continue to get set up if they don't wake up. Yep. And it just seems like not just the players who the players are forced into submission with the money, right? But what are we seeing with the whole contract thing with cutting Denzel Ward, releasing Tyreek Hill? We got to see what Tyreek Hill contract actually, what he ends up with. But more so, Denzel Ward, Joel Bitonio. What y'all think about those two right there? Like, that's crazy, right? It shouldn't even be a question that Denzel Ward is the keeper and Bitonio should be made to retire, right? He should have been had consequences for that, right? But instead, seemed like they're trying to find a way to keep him. And that's not good for anybody that's the quarterback, whether it's Shedeur or Deshaun. It said, for our nephew, 12 legendary Pro Bowler, Shedeur Sanders, that no weapon formed against him shall prosper. Amen. It said, yep, 17-32. That's what it is. And when people realize that it stopped at 16, but who was supposed to be 17, the fact that they never talk about it tells me they already knew. Because the pattern is documented. The pattern had been discussed. It was like, oh, well, the numbers had gone up and down a couple of times. That was like at 23. Then when it got to 24, Jacoby Brissett was the 15th black starting quarterback, which meant any black quarterbacks coming out in the first round that were elite, they were a lock to be 17 and 18. And because the trend was always 2 or 3, with there only being one was what was different. Because what you heard the owner say? If you would have told me that he was going to be drafted then, I'd be like, because that's how serious they were about making sure there were not 17 black quarterbacks. And while the players get paid and it's really to be lulled to look away from the racism that they are experiencing, what you're seeing now is these black wide receivers stop running on their routes. But are they going to be handsomely rewarded like Mark Andrews? Let's see what happened. Let's see what happened to Jerry Jeudy. It said Emmitt Smith was on TD Jake's next podcast talking about how the NFL disregarded talent because Shedeur should have been drafted first round. Right. Yeah, it definitely wasn't about talent. I'm surprised he's speaking out about that because don't he have a son coming in the draft? So that says a lot. That says, yeah, I know. And we're going to see what happened. So stay tuned for that. So thank you for sharing that, Tamika. You're going to have to be the one in charge of keeping up with that issue for us because, yeah, let us know what happens. I'm not watching the draft. So I'm probably going to be looking at if Shedeur's still there, number one, because free agency is coming. And even though he's not a free agent, they're going to want to make some trades with some people. And that's how Dorian Thompson-Robinson got to Philadelphia from Cleveland because they got Kenny Pickett from Philly to Cleveland. And understand this. Those are the two places that I can see Barry has the connections. Philly and Baltimore. And they already tried to send Shedeur to both. And they have an attitude that we're going to show you. So don't be surprised if that's where he end up in Philly. I don't know if he would end up in Baltimore, but don't be surprised if he end up in Philly. Don't be surprised. Straight Talker. Welcome back, Straight Talker. It said just because. Oh, that's so nice. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So just because showing love with the super chats, but just because. Thank you for the support. Y'all hype me up. If you're over there, hit the subscribe button. We are less than 50 away from 7,000. So I'm excited. I'm already planning my probably want to celebrate. Because I think that's that's a huge thing. And it's the off season. So I'm so glad y'all still, choosing to come back and learn some more and just really hang out, right? And share. Because just like Tamika was sharing about Emmitt Smith, I appreciate y'all sharing because I don't know everything, but the topics I do have command of, I do know. So I appreciate y'all bringing things to the table. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. And thank you for the super chat, Straight Talker. Nice for you to come back. Carly said the Shedeur files are always on point. It's definitely about 17 to 32. Yep. I like the Shedeur files, and I love the format because I think it gets people who ordinarily wouldn't pay attention to sports stuff because it's animated. I like it. And it's just nice to see, because we've been on this issue for coming on a year now. It's nice to see that people aren't buying into, oh, Stefanski's gone, the problem is solved. No. And they're clearly not buying into that. So I really appreciate that. I respect that as well. So shout out to the Shedeur files. It said, I love the Shedeur files. It said Shedeur no longer has Wyatt Teller as of today. So they moved out Wyatt Teller today? Damn, they said June 1st. What? So Wyatt Teller was released. What did they do? Release a trade. See, that tells you what they're doing. That tells you what they're doing from what they're working on. They're not trying to win. They're trying to do the same thing. All pro guard Wyatt Teller announced on Instagram February 18th that he will not return to the Cleveland Browns, ending his 7-year season tenure with the team, as he heads to free agency. The 31-year-old 3-time Pro Bowler expressed gratitude to the city while facing an offseason of change. He said, Teller confirmed on social media that he will not return in 2026, stating, I wish things were different. Wow. They talking about he struggled with injuries in 2025, including a calf injury. Understand, and he was placed on injured reserve. Wyatt Teller told us he was not injured. So there was no calf injury. He was placed on injured reserve as retaliation, just like Denzel Ward being cut is retaliation. You see? We already know about Tony Brown. We already know about Flacco. Hell, we already know. Look at what happened to Jerry Jeudy. I don't know. Somehow they convinced him. Look at Myles Garrett, right? So, yeah, this retaliation. And his wife said it after Stefanski got fired. Win stupid, what did he say? Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. So when he says, I wish things were different, yeah, they lied. He said, I'm not injured. So it opens the door that they using injuries to collude against player and restrict their movement. So it should tell you that the Browns, without Stefanski, are still on the same page. So who is it you can see a little closer when you look in? The owner. Because Andrew Berry don't have no power. They're not building to win in 26. They've already balled this season up and threw it in the trash. Just saying. Straight Taco became a member. Oh, awesome. Okay. Welcome, Straight Taco members. Can y'all welcome the new member? Thank y'all so much. I appreciate y'all. So, Tamika, thank you too for the TD Jake story on Emmitt Smith. You're going to have to keep us informed. Thank you so much. Remind all path leads to racism. That's what it is. Instead of calling it going through racism. It's not an it. It said Arch not get into the Browns. He might stay longer in college. That's the only way he's not going to get to the Browns. That's the only way. And he might not want to go there. Arch Manning gives me Joe Burrow vibes. Do y'all know what I mean by that? Do y'all understand what I mean by that? I ain't with that. I might have grew up around y'all, but I ain't with that. Yeah. He gives me those vibes. We'll see. It said we are here, not culturally conditioned over here. Yeah, we are not culturally conditioned, but that's what people expect. It said I would rather see Shedeur leave the NFL. Going to another team wouldn't be any better. It might not be. I don't know what his plans are. Somebody posted something about him, and I saw a post. I didn't get to read it though. Something about him and the guy that's already in Canada. Remember the one number 66 for the Buffs? What is his name? He's in Canada. I forget his name. Something about the two of them. And I said, oh, I wonder if Shedeur is in Canada. He plays in Canada. That's exactly what I said. I was like, oh, I wonder if Shedeur. If I see Shedeur palling around with him, then I'm going to know. But somebody posted about them today. So maybe Shedeur went to visit him. Either he's in Vegas or he's in Canada. He plays in Canada, but he might actually live in Vegas. I don't know his name, but y'all know who it is. I think it was the guy that was on the right side, number 66. They were tight, and actually Coach Prime referred to him and said he's like a real good brother to my son or something like that. I forget his name, though. But his content, he keeps his content up. I would not be surprised. It said, did they trade a cut wide? Well, he's a free agent. So they didn't come to an agreement to keep him, but they didn't let Joel Bitonio retire like he was planning to do. They want to put pause on that. If y'all heard any different, let me know. But it was supposed to have already happened. So they cool with letting Wyatt Teller walk. They cool with cutting. So Wyatt Teller no longer has a contract. They didn't give him a new one. So he said he wished it was different. That's supposed to be retaliation for giving a damn about Shedeur and supporting him. Then they have Joel Bitonio, who was on camera dirt diving. He was supposed to retire, but they were like, no, just wait. So even though somebody announced his retirement, I looked it up last night. He hadn't retired yet. Then there's Denzel Ward, who still has 2 years on a $100 million contract. I think he's only made $73 million. So the rest of that money would just go to the win, and he'd have to go fend for himself on the new team. And that appears to be retaliation as well, along with the rest of the retaliation that we saw. And some of the first transactions they made was moving off Njoku, which appeared to be retaliation because Njoku gravitated towards Shedeur. So it seems that the Browns are just retaliating against people who show support and are nice to Shedeur. And Stefanski gone. So the sabotage may have stopped, but the retaliation is in full swing. From the outside looking in, that's what it looks like. It said, I totally agree that many fans have become immune. Right. And you know what I was thinking today? I said, it's still trade Shedeur for me. I said, because to be honest with you, I don't even want to talk about the Browns. I mean, really, and I don't mind talking about the transactions, like what's happening to Denzel Ward, and then looking at Isaiah Likely and looking at the connection between the two and how they want to reward and keep people like Bitonio and what's his name? Mark Andrews. I mean, it's obvious that that's racism, right? I mean, what explain it? Explain it. Isaiah Likely is tight end one. You gave all the money to somebody that failed. You didn't even keep no money around to reward Isaiah Likely because you don't value Isaiah Likely. You don't want Isaiah Likely to catch nothing from Lamar Jackson. But you're going to pay the one that showed you he can go in the biggest of games to suppress Lamar. Understand this. You pissing off your fan base. So while you out here gunning for Lamar, you blowing the whole damn thing up. This is how desperate they are to inflict pain and injury on these black quarterbacks. They willing to burn it all down rather than have 17 black starting quarterbacks. Why ain't going to free agency? Yeah, Browns don't want to give him another contract, right? It said the games are going to be very, very boring with all these check down quarterbacks. That's fact, probably. It's that black QBs make it interesting and exciting. It's that we need to take our money elsewhere, right? And like Josh Allen, but now you got to ask. You have to ask: was his 4 interceptions were they random because they sure got his coach fired and his coach was nice about Shedeur? There's a pattern here. It looked like they're gunning for everybody that's supportive of Shedeur because the owners took Shedeur off the board. So they turned it into a y'all versus us situation. That's what they doing. They sweeping anybody that shows support. So that means everybody coming in better get the message. That's how they treating it. So I just saw Quinshon Judkins somewhere praising Shedeur. I guess we're gonna see what happened to him. And what did we just hear about moving in federal court? And they still at it. You see what I mean? This is pure ignorance right here. At what point do you say we gonna blow it all up? Well, if some people can't be the captain, they'll burn down the whole ship. So rather than have 17 black starting quarterbacks, you want to change and move away from athleticism that the black quarterbacks have to check down keys and prop them up and cheat. You got to cheat for that to happen. And nobody wants to watch that happen. The Browns fans proved that with Dylan. I swear they'd rather burn it all down. And it shows you how they feel when they only unfollow Jay-Z. Nary a word about Peyton Manning. All those people in the E-Files associated with NFL and you unfollow Jay-Z? Really? Okay. So that tells me how you feel about black people, along with the $1 billion lawsuit, along with the class action lawsuit, along with only firing black GMs, along with how you treated Shedeur, how you treated Lamar, how you treat black quarterbacks, period. And now the new thing, just like instead of somebody like Mark Andrews failing the team, I got all these black wide receivers stopping the runs on their routes. What else is new? Well, in the around the league, just cutting talented individuals. I'm not re-signing talented individuals who could help us win. I'm not signing talented Black players like Isaiah Likely, even though his wife might be white, because that don't matter to me. I'd rather give the money to the white man and not you, because they showed you how they feel about women, regardless of their race. That's the new thing. We just out here gutting talent for a number of reasons. Isaiah Likely's reason is different from why they cutting Denzel Ward. The fact that they cut him and not trade him tells you everything you need to know. The fact that they gave all the money to Mark Andrews, who failed, and didn't save none for the tight end who's better, Isaiah Likely, tells you everything you need to know. That's the new trend. So no longer is it just about Black quarterbacks being devalued. Now, let's see what happened to Denzel Ward, but he's clearly being devalued because he's going to have to go somewhere else and start somewhere else and hopefully get the same money, and that's not going to happen. If that was the case, they would have just left him where he was. The goal clearly seems to be to get rid of him, even though he took up for Stefanski in the end. And I was like, oh, big mistake. Big mistake. And here we are. Here we are. 145 of us. Hit the like button, please. They say Peyton Manning will decide what team Arch goes to. Right. And Miss Pamela, Peyton Manning is in the Browns owner Haslam circle of trust, along with Jimmy Sexton, who owns that agency that even Derrick Henry is part of. And if you know who the players are, you see the dominoes being stacked. If you know who Tom Telesco is and his relationship to Peyton Manning, you know that that's a domino. You know that Isaiah Bond went to Texas and was brought in the same year as Shedeur, which was supposed to be an insult to Shedeur, that we didn't bring him here for you. We brought him here for Arch in 26, but he's staying in school, so we'll keep him around the 27. I've already explained that Isaiah Bond's contract is not your typical 4-year rookie contract, which means depending on how he does, like Denzel Ward, maybe you could parlay this into what Jerry Jeudy has. If you know who the players are, you see the Mannings in the Browns organization. Plus, they'd already talked about it on the radio after I said it. But the point is, I already knew they knew. That's why I said they be playing. They know exactly what's going on. It said it's going to be a brand new O-line unless Batonio wants to come back. Why does he have a choice, coach? AB about to work some magic on that O-line. We're going to see. We're going to see. Remember, AB already brought in a series of ambidextrous O-linemen that can play left tackle, right guard, left guard. So we'll see. We'll see. That's what should happen. But the fact that they're trying to hold on to Batonio and even giving him, not even giving him an option when he was going to retire, they're like, no, don't go. Why? Why would you want to hold on to Batonio? Because clearly he's willing to set up Shedeur. Why would you interview coaches and ask each coach that you interview, what is your development plan for Shedeur? But you don't want Shedeur to be there to eliminate that coach. Batonio should be forced to retire. Batonio was a saboteur and was begged to stay by AB. I don't know if it was by AB. I'm pretty sure it's the owner on behalf of AB. Understand this. Andrew Berry does not have any power. He's the scapegoat. He was a scapegoat for Deshaun. He's a scapegoat for Dylan, and we know he didn't draft Dylan. We know Stefanski was allowed to undermine Andrew Berry. We know Andrew Berry kept playing in Shedeur face, and what happened when Monkey came in? Okay. And now you see it happening. Shout out to the Shedeur files. It said, I said that earlier, that they sending those washed up veteran quarterbacks to block the Black quarterbacks from being QB1. Right. And that's exactly what happened with the Washington Commanders. The NFL investigated and didn't find nothing. And then Congress had to investigate, and it all got blown up then. And that owner was forced to sell. So it proves that the NFL cannot be trusted to investigate itself. That's why things are so bad. That's why things are so bad. If the U.S. Supreme Court can make George Preston Marshall and Bobby Mitchell to the Washington Redskins, they can force change in NFL. That's who it's gonna have to be. But you got to remember who's sitting on the U.S. Supreme Court right now. It was Congress, but we'll see. We shall see. It said Brett Favre stole from the whole state of Mississippi. Right. And that's what Michael Vick is saying. Where's the accountability? Because they talking about, is he going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer or something like that? Same thing with Ben Roethlisberger. I'm like, why are we hearing from him? What did I tell y'all about that show that had on Richard Incognito and Joe Gruden? I'm like, why are they on him? The next thing you know, they trying to get John Gruden the job. I mean, why fire the one Daboll from the Giants and just put him over here with Cam? That's a slap in the face. Whether Cam sees it or not, that's what's coming. I hope you were wrong about TM. If that's true, then these people are sick. About who? TM? Let me know who you're talking about, Kane. Let me know. Oh, hey, Jackie, welcome. Thank you for checking in. It said no one white quarterback has a major injury in the league. Facts. I checked. I knew because I checked. I checked. That's why I knew. I was like, oh, okay. I see. That's why I keep saying Joe Burrow had turf toe. I checked. Thank you for sharing. But yeah, you're right. You're so right. You're so right. It said it definitely wasn't about CP at all. At all. Thank you so much, Jackie. It says CP didn't help. Coach, I would love to meet you in person one day. What you mean CP didn't help with all those pre-draft interviews? You do know that they intentionally reeled Coach Prime in with the NFL honors to be on the stage with Belichick to make him feel equal and somebody like family because he worked for them for how many years? And let him believe that he mattered to them and all this stuff. And it was all just to stab them in the back. Remember what the Commissioner Goodell said? I'm worried about your pops. Was he psychic? That's still a big question mark. And I know every time, I know that has come to Shedeur's mind a lot of times. And Bucky too, because he filmed it. Coach Prime did fine. He didn't do nothing wrong. Why can't he want for his son what the Mannings want for theirs? See, that's the whole problem with people accepting racism. People accepting Jim Crow. Well, Coach Prime can't want Shedeur to be protected like Archie Manning wanted Eli Manning to be protected. Eli got to choose that I don't want to go over here. I don't want to go over here. Shedeur couldn't even choose his own goddamn jersey number. And in fact, they gave Shedeur Travis number and gave Travis Shedeur money. Pitting black people against each other. But I guess as long as they get paid, they good, right? So Coach Prime didn't do nothing. That ain't on Coach Prime. Drake May had the easiest schedule, right? And I knew at some point it's going to be Drake May and not Josh Allen. And now that's why I questioned, did Josh Allen 4 interceptions, were they really so random? Because they sure got his coach fired. His coach that was praising Shedeur. Oh, and Keon Coleman. That's right. Something new came up about that. So we were talking about Keon Coleman yesterday. And I think it was yesterday, a day before. We were talking about him and his situation and what's going on, and Josh Allen and McDermott. And I shared that McDermott praised Shedeur. So I was asking, did McDermott get fired because, like everybody else that praised Shedeur, they wanted to teach him a lesson because they like, yeah, he might have to sit out a year. Like they trying to punish him for praising Shedeur. And then remember, Shedeur almost had the Bills tied up, right? So it seems like to me, the people that took Shedeur off the board are out here just causing all kind of chaos to keep themselves covered because they are guilty. And they have so many people of layers in between them that shield them, but they decided to be Billy Badasses and make this decision. Now they're running from it. See, they're going to have to run from that forever. And remember, the way things are today, they may not be tomorrow. Understand that. And they clearly they don't. And the arrogance, I think, is what's fueling. Thanks for the reminder to hit the like button. Hit the pop-up link, bypasses the like button. Okay, Lisa girl, thank you so much. Pat's going to have a tough schedule next year. I don't know, but it's going to be rigged, coach. Yeah, CP is a scapegoat, facts. It said Peyton Manning was accused of harassment back when he was a quarterback for Tennessee. Oh, really? Thank you, Barbara. I keep hearing people talk about what happened at Tennessee. I never had a chance to look into it. Okay, that's interesting. And you see, and hell, I watched him in that Super Bowl against Cam Newton. Oh, Cam Newton got cheated. See, this tell you black quarterbacks being cheated and targeted goes all the way back. Cam Newton was cheated in that Super Bowl against Peyton Manning. I watched them. Y'all told me to go watch the highlights, and I did. I was like, damn, they cheated him. And then it was Cam Newton was a victim, a target of Bountygate by the Saints. Yep. So was Frank Gore. Yep. Thank you for that, Barbara. Thank you. I'm gonna have to look into that. Coach Prime didn't do anything wrong, Coach. You can't keep taking up for these people. If you believe that, then you believe that Dylan was better than Shedeur, Coach. So it said it was settled out of court. Okay, kind of like what we seeing with these other cases, like with what's the kids, the school BYU, like a couple of their players from last year and this year, two of their players being roped up in some situations. One of them is the felony. Is one of them a felony? And back to Keon Coleman. So I was saying that we were trying to figure out what's going on with Keon Coleman. Didn't have time to look into it because the whole thing with Shedeur is just huge, right? It's not just the team, it's not just the draft, it's all of it. And it don't just affect Shedeur, it affects everybody. So it's a behemoth, right? And I said it before, I posted on my IG. I said Shedeur is at the center of a case that could rock the NFL, and it really could. It really could. And I think that Keon Coleman, we were wondering if he was being ostracized, right? And his agent came out and posted, stay on that side. Don't come running back behind closed doors. So I don't know who his agent is, but they had their name in the post. And let me know if y'all saw it. It says something to the tune of, now, don't be talking big smoke publicly, like trashing Keon publicly, but you want to backtrack privately. It was like, stay on that side. So I don't know what's going to happen with Keon Coleman, but isn't he on a rookie deal? I don't think he was a free agent, was he? I mean, an undrafted free agent. Keon Coleman contract. So anyway, we got to keep tabs on Keon Coleman because his agent is basically trying to say they're trying to come back behind closed doors and whisper. Keon Coleman signed a 4-year, $10 million rookie contract with the Bills in 24. In June of 24. He signed his contract in June, featuring $9.64 million of guaranteed money, which don't mean what typically guarantees should mean. Because if a person has a guaranteed contract, like Denzel Ward for $100 million, if they cut him, they need to pay him. And a $4.15 million signing bonus. So he got a $4 million signing bonus. As a second round pick, the deal includes a $1.8 million cap hit in 2024, with annual salaries increasing to 1.7 in 2026 and 2.16 million in 2027. Now, why is it his contract is only why is he only making $1 million in 2026? He signed a $10 million deal. I don't know. Their contracts are not normal. They're not normal. They're unilateral. They're not bilateral. When they go to the team, the same contract go with them. Apparently, even if you have $100 million contract, if they cut you, they ain't got to pay it. I didn't think it worked like that. Guaranteed mean I get the money, rain or shine. So it's like it's guaranteed if they keep you, but they can cut you to avoid the guarantees. That ain't making no sense to me. That's not making any kind of sense to me. That's not making no sense. I don't know. I would think guaranteed. But what they did to Michael Vick is they gave him his signing bonus and they took it back. So that is a thing. One, they can void their contracts for certain things, including on the field behavior, which I don't even know what that means. And two, I think they can void it if they get into an incident off the field, like DUI or something. They can take their money. Like, you know, the player who got shot with the 49ers, it's going to be interesting to see if they try to take his contract money because it might fall into the void category. Yeah. There's a player that played for the Ravens. He got a DUI. They were able to get, is it 40%? This is in addition to the taxes he paid. He lost 40% of his contract money. So you're going to owe them, you keep on. You're going to end up owing them money. And then they were talking about the Super Bowl in California, saying there should never, ever be another Super Bowl in California because I don't know why they were just talking about the quarterback. Apparently, postseason play is not contract money. And when they go to the Super Bowl, everybody only get 175,000. So you don't get your normal whatever you get deposited in your contract money. You don't get big money, or maybe unless you have incentives. So they're saying because NFL players and all sports people, whatever city they play in, they have to pay taxes. So taxes in California are high. So they will tax at a really high rate of only 175,000. So they lost a lot of money. And in some cases, they lost all the money that they made based on some of the activities they had going on. So that 175,000 that they got paid for the Super Bowl was gone, eaten up mostly by taxes. So they said there should have never been a Super Bowl in California, and it should never ever happen again. Personally, I think the Super Bowls need to be in New Orleans, Carolinas, Tampa, Jacksonville, Tennessee, Vegas, Texas. I don't know about Kansas City, Missouri. I've never been there. I feel like I haven't. I may have, but if so, it was quick. It was quick. It's cold in Chicago. It's too cold in Cincinnati. It's too cold in Cleveland. It's too cold in Detroit. It's too cold in Buffalo. So all of the states, Midwest down. That's it. To the South. That's it. That's what it should be. And it shouldn't be nothing else. That's just my opinion. And the one in New Orleans was really fun. The one in New Orleans was really fun. Hey, St. Ivy, thank you so much. It said you have all of these podcasters that have all of this positive talk about how the Browns organization is behind Shedeur, but I am skeptical. It said your take makes a lot of sense. I hope that Shedeur and the other was following you. From word on the street is, yeah. I don't know how I can watch it, but word on the street is, yeah. So thank you, number one. Thank you for the support, but thank you for the kind words and the encouragement. I appreciate it. When I put these shows together, sometimes I'm like, I mean, telling the truth, I keep telling people, some people have this thing that they just want to be positive, but you're not going to tell the truth if it's not positive. The truth is ugly sometimes, right? It's ugly sometimes. And I just think that, what happened to Shedeur is a travesty, and it should have never happened after it happened to Lamar and the disgusting way that they blame Coach Prime and Shedeur, but it was because they were Black. And how they made Jay-Z collateral damage, but didn't want to hold Peyton Manning or any of the 9 owners on the list accountable. How they seemingly trying to wrestle the team away from the late Paul Allen, his sister, because she's a woman. How they can't stand the woman who owns the Tennessee Titans. Not that all women stick together, because clearly we see 53% voted for who. So it's the race thing first, because they're so bold with it. And because of the $1 billion lawsuit, you settled it, and you still going, you still being racist. And, that was against all Black people. And then we see them pulling Black people closer while they are actively discriminating against Black quarterbacks. And the new thing is now Black players, period. This whole Denzel Ward, Isaiah Likely, that moves away from the quarterbacks being devalued to the other players too. See, that's a game changer right there. What that means is, when I go to the draft, I'm going to see who they're going to draft. I ain't watching it. I'm going to hear about it. But I have a sneaky feeling that the Isaiah Likely will get tossed, and I'm going to get a Black guy for cheap, or I'm going to overpay a white guy, because that's what's already happening. I don't value Isaiah Likely, but I clearly value Mark Andrews. He's white, and he failed more than once. So it seems like they're using the league as a wealth transfer system to just get the money to certain people and keep it away from certain people. It's not about talent at all. It's definitely race. It's definitely founded in race, but it's something else going on too. So I think in the past, and thank you so much, St. Ivy. I think in the past, people, other players and other positions, like the Isaiah Likely, whose offense, and Denzel Ward, whose defense, because that's a huge message, right? Felt like, well, hell, I ain't a quarterback. Screw it. That's really what I think. That's really what I think. But now, they coming for you. See, that's why they should have stood up for Lamar. That's why they should have stood up for Shedeur, because now they coming for them. It ain't no fun, is it? It ain't no fun. And that's why when and understand this, they probably ain't gonna get picked up like that for no real money. They gonna get devalued. And the only way they come to Cleveland is if they take the money for the low. That's what Andrew Berry does with black players. That's a whole nother conversation right there. And this is what fans are paying for, to value black athletes and enrich the white athletes who go along with the bullshit. Yep, that's what it is. That's what it is. So it's just sad. So thank you so much, Saint Ivy, and keep checking in with us. I think you remember, right? Keep hanging out with us and listen to what you're hearing on the other podcasts that you like and compare notes, right? And don't be afraid to share some of the things that you hear, whatever. You know, but everybody got their own agenda. You have to remember that. Mine is just to support Shedeur and be honest about what's happening. That's it. That's my only agenda. I'm not for the likes and clicks, even though I do want you to hit the like button and I do want you to subscribe because I do want to celebrate the joy of all my hard work of getting to 7,000 subs. So if that's an agenda, then I'll take it. I'll take it. But I'm not going to sacrifice the reality of what's really happening and how widespread it is and how it's deeply rooted in racism and how it's not new for likes and clicks. So while I would like y'all to hit the subscribe button, I'm still going to say what I got to say. Thank y'all so much. It looks like Anthony Richardson is becoming a free agent. Right. How many years was he in the league? 2? What was he drafted in? 23? I looked that up one time. I was like, same thing with Raheem Morris. You get a very short amount of time before they push you out. Dorian Thompson-Robinson came in at 23. He already out the league. That's what they want to do to Shedeur. That's why being drafted as far down as he is, he didn't get a standard rookie contract. That's why they already talking up Lamar need to retire. They're already talking about Michael Penix Jr. need to retire. If I'm Michael Penix Jr., I'm suing y'all because y'all the reason I got a double ACL right now. What did they do? Exploit previous ACL. That means they sit down and they talk about these things and they strategize in very evil ways to commit these nefarious acts, all out of racism to suppress black quarterbacks. And now I'm cheating Denzel Ward and Isaiah Likely, and they play on both different sides of the ball, and neither one of them a quarterback, which means I'm targeting black people. Period. Black players, black coaches, black executives. Hell, probably the janitor too. Period. At the same time, I'm bringing in black photographers. I'm bringing in black referees. You see how that works? That's why they think we don't stick together, because they cheat us in one area and pull us close in another one. And they feel like, well, when it comes to the money, you ain't going to say nothing. Maybe they're true. But understand this, everywhere ain't the NFL, so they luck going to run out. I'm just saying. They said the NFL will use the surplus of black quarterbacks to block the other ones. Right. And I talked about how there are actually no black quarterbacks on certain teams, but they got all these black quarterbacks stacked together. And I said it's going to become obvious very shortly here that that's what's happening, because how is it your depth chart is full of black people, but this team don't have no black people? Minnesota. And when they get a black person, they're going to be at the 4. They damn sure ain't going to be at the 1 or the 2. And they're not putting no Shedeur behind the J.J. McCarthy, because why? Even though they put Shedeur behind Dylan, because people going to be like, they're going to be able to see it easier. With them coming into the league new, people like, well, yeah, maybe we don't know. I'm like, so y'all didn't pay attention to college football? And the fans play a part of that too. Choosing to be ignorant to the story, whether they white fans or black fans, choosing to be ignorant and blind to the racism. The fans buy into that. And that's whose money they're using to reward Mark Andrews and Batonio while they do what? Let Isaiah Likely and Denzel Ward find their way. So it's not about talent in the regular season either, is it? I'm like, first it was just the draft. And the more they make gains, the more it's going to be. They just going to blow it all up. That's just what it is. They already working on blowing it all up. It's kind of already half blown up. People talked about how boring the Super Bowl was, right? That's part of it. And they don't care because they like, well, you're going to pay. Okay. He must be talking about somebody else, but he damn sure ain't talking about me. It's not trade Shedeur Sanders for me. I'd rather my nephew to be finished with the NFL and just be on his own entrepreneur because he have huge followers. Yeah, I agree with that. I say that because I know he seemingly still want to play football. But nope, you're right. I would applaud him if he goes to the podium and says he's done. Because he should be. He should be. And we can all celebrate Snow playing soccer because DeAndrea said she signed Snow up for soccer. And if you saw him on the Globetrotters video and his command of the ball when he was playing with Chuck E. Cheese, he's a natural athlete. So we can just all cheer on Snow because ain't nobody cheating him just yet. And we can watch some pure sport or some toddlers kicking the ball around playing soccer because that's got to be fun. That's going to be fun. I thought they started playing about 5, but now that they have these tumbling tots and these little bitty programs, I told DeAndrea, I said, oh my God, I'm so excited. I can't wait. So if Shedeur went to the podium and said he was out, I would applaud him and find something else to talk about. Basketball is going to be next. And then volleyball possibly, because I'm trying to get out there to Duluth to the pro women's, they have a women's pro volleyball league. Hell, they even have a professional women's softball league now. And then there's Athlos, the professional women's track league, track and field league. See, all of it, it's so many other things to do other than to put up with this crap. So if he came to the podium and said it, I'm going to find something else to do. Hey, Kenya, I'm sure those sham interviews were humiliating. Absolutely. Absolutely. Racism loves to hurt your feelings. That's what it is. That well said, Kenya. Well said. Well said. Hello and welcome back. Hey, Kiwan, how you doing? How you doing? Yep, the NFL is an example, right? The NFL is a microcosm of what's going on around us in the larger part of the world for the exact same reason. Racism. Why would they be in the e-files talking about building a master race? Racism. Same thing. It's the same thing. That's why they in the files. They're the same people. That's what people are overlooking. Oh, Miss Pamela was explaining to us of prison culture and what Ali Sadiq said happens in lockup or something like that. Who sides with who? That's what she was saying. And more people are starting to talk about everything is about race. There's a guy on TikTok talking about how back in the day they built bridges low so buses from the Black communities couldn't commute into other areas. I'm like, huh? I'm like, are you serious? They're like, he was explaining that this is how race has evolved in everything. He was talking about how Black people worked and a lot of the household didn't have a car at the time. And when they were building bridges and overpasses, they intentionally made them low so the buses that carried the Black people over to the other parts of town couldn't get there. I'm like, so they did, so they couldn't get those jobs. How is that any different in cities like Atlanta that they don't want the train to go out to certain areas? Now, I'm not from here, so I don't know what counties it is, but I heard it's a big, understand this. That's the only way I'm getting to the airport. Yeah, I'm not ever. I'm not ever getting in the goddamn car with some wheels and going to the airport. It's the train because it's 15 minutes, 20 tops. I think I left the house like at 6. I kid you not. I think at 6:05, I was on the train. My plane left at 7 o'clock and I was on it. This is why I travel really early, 6 a.m. I travel really early because there ain't nobody going through TSA like that. Now, there's no way in the hell I could get through with that in the afternoon. But in the morning, I looked at my phone. It was 6:05. I was like, damn, I'm still on this train. Am I going to make it? I was like, man, I ain't going to make it. That's exactly what I was thinking. Then we get there. It's 6:15. I go through TSA. It's just a little bit of a hold up because some lady in TSA was explaining to the lady, older Black lady. I mean, I thought it was nice, but can y'all help me so I can go? She was looking at her ID and trying to explain something to her where they check in your ID before you take your shoes off. And now you don't even have to take your shoes off no more. So that made it faster. So we just scanned my stuff through. Then probably about 6:30, I was on the train and they hadn't even started boarding. No, it was about 6:20 because they hadn't started boarding yet because I didn't get the notification. Then as soon as I get off the train, of course, you got to go way to the end of the terminal. And I went and found my gate first, and I still had time to buy snacks at the little self-serve pay thing in the middle where you get like the chocolate covered cashews. Yes. Yes. 6:05 sitting on the train. And I didn't have to run or nothing. I had extra time to spare. I had time to go into the ladies' room, make sure my braids looking good. Yeah. And yeah. hmm So I will never, unless that train broke, and that hadn't happened, knock on wood, I love it. And mind you, it's early in the morning. So, I felt safe. It was other people out there. But now at night, I don't know if I want to do that. I don't think I'm gonna take it all the way. I'm gonna take the train out the airport so we don't have to get stuck in traffic. But I'm gonna get off somewhere like Peachtree or something like that, and then get picked up and go home. So I'll do that. But I'm telling you, but that was the same thing. So that train that I'm talking about, that I'm very happy to have, they don't want that train to go past. I think it's North Springs is where it goes, and I guess after that they don't want it there. There was supposed to be a whole new train thing popping up on the Beltway. They somehow scrapped it. It was supposed to be Atlanta has the belt line that goes around and it's fun, right? You got restaurants, you got shops, coffee houses, and people skate and ride bikes. So and it's all around the city. I think when Obama was president, he took up all of the abandoned railroad tracks and made them pedestrian. And that's one of Atlanta's best features. The belt line, you can just go outside on any sunny day and just go out there and commute against other people, or you just be by yourself, whatever you want to do. And it connects to parks and everything. So they were supposed to take the belt line and somehow they were going to find space next to it, like dig up some grass and run it around the belt line so people could get on and off. And I think the reason they scrapped it is because certain people didn't want the train in their neighborhood. I mean, if you don't catch the train, why are you bothered by the train? You ain't bothered by the train. You bothered by what you think the train gonna bring. Understand that if they want to get out there, they can take an Uber. You see how people think? Oh, if we bring the train out here, it's gonna bring black people or whatever. I'm like, but you want to do the work, right? You got people that got to work at these places out here. So when they were lowering the bridges, it was so the black people couldn't get to work, but they didn't want to do those jobs. Sound familiar? Sound familiar? Sound familiar? Sound familiar? But if you come to Atlanta, it's okay to take the train, especially if you're going to your hotel or something. It's the NFL owners are still following plantation policies. Facts, light skin indoors, dark outdoors, right? Totally agree. Totally agree. I totally agree. The Tyrod Taylor incident also caused the Chargers to lose in the playoffs that year, and they fired their black head coach, Anthony Lynn. Well, there you go. Yep, there you go. It's like they fire one and they start targeting the others, right? They fire Raheem Morris, but they were targeting Michael Penix Jr. just so that Raheem Morris could get fired. And I felt like Raheem Morris should have started a play coming because he knew who the GM was, and they clearly had decided back in March who to draft, right? So while they were on their board going to draft Michael Penix Jr., then the owner decides to do what the Browns did in the same month of March. The Browns brought in Pickett while they were claiming to get Shedeur, and then remembered, oh shit, we have Deshaun, so let me pivot and get Dylan. Oh, and let me get Flacco too. Really? All Flacco and Pickett did was suck up the reps so they can have an excuse not to develop Shedeur. It said, family, did y'all hear that? Kyrie Irving is out because of ACL injuries. He said he wants his body full healed. He always speaks his mind. I thought he was playing because it was Ramadan and they was showing how well he was doing. Did that happen after that? Because I was going to share the photo of that actually. But okay. But they said it's Ramadan and his numbers were through the roof. He was doing really well. But thank you for sharing that, Miss Pamela. Oh, no, that's Crowley. Thank you for sharing that, Crowley. Thank you. The joke has caught up to the punchline. Facts. Denzel got cut. No, not yet. What they're saying is they're looking at cutting him rather than paying him the last 2 years of his salary, which is about $34 million. So it's supposed to be a guaranteed contract. So I'm like, if you're gonna still give him the money, we'll see. Their contracts are weird. Their contracts are weird. No, that's not fake news, coach. Fake news, coach. That's not fake news at all. It said Haslam and AB love to mess up the black players' money. Yep. And understand this, Barry don't have no power. He's the go fetch, and he's the person that does the dirty work. While Haslam keeps the hand clean. And same thing with Stefanski. Except for Stefanski enjoyed it. He enjoyed his part. And Barry, I think he's trying to keep it on the low, but the secret's coming out. And I'm like, wait till you see what happened to him. Okay, we're going to see. Because if you bring in another GM to help you with hiring, they don't want you to do the hiring. They just want you to devalue the black players and take the fall for whatever they do to the black players. That's it. Denzel Ward over Batonio. Facts. Absolutely facts. Batonio is straight trash. Are they retaining him? They seem like they're trying to keep him from leaving. They seem like they're trying to keep him from leaving. They can't commit to Shedeur, but they don't want Batonio to leave, and they can't find a contract. They want to get rid of Denzel, which is crazy. Denzel Ward is not getting cut. What they're saying is he's on a projected cut list because of where he is in his contract. We didn't say they were cutting him tomorrow. It should have never even been a conversation that he could be cut. Just like it should not be a conversation that Batonio gets another opportunity or they considering anything. It's the same thing. It makes absolutely no sense. It makes no sense. Denzel Ward should be safe, and he shouldn't have to be concerned with whether or not he's going to get cut because he shouldn't be paid and he's not worth $16 million. That's what that means. They might keep Batonio if he wants to come back for another year. They might keep him as a vet if the whole line gonna be gone. All of them need to be gone. And I ain't saying they get them from the draft. They all need to be gone. If they want to keep Batonio, what does that say? Why would you want to keep him? Why not keep Wyatt Teller and get some more people? Why would you keep Batonio, who's caught on camera dirt diving? You never saw Wyatt Teller dirt diving. Explain it. And coach, you too comfortable with Batonio. He might get the opportunity to come back. You shouldn't be okay with that after him setting up Shedeur. You shouldn't be okay with that. That's the human issue. You shouldn't be okay with that. Oh, thank you, Kim. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Tyreek Hill is still injured. That's what they keep saying, but so is Deshaun. Chiron Moore called Tyrone. Yeah, he's gonna have to. That situation is crazy, y'all. That situation is crazy. That situation is crazy. Absolutely. It said, is Michigan a right to work state? I don't know. Probably. Why? I mean, probably most states, with exception of maybe like one or two. Yeah, it's by design. Absolutely. It's by design. Due process most likely will get the charges dismissed. In entry of the home, probably he may have had a key to her house. That's what they were saying. It said, like Cat Williams said, don't just be running into. Well, here's what I'm saying, right, about him. Okay. We already just talked about the Brian Banks situation where he was set up. And again, this don't happen to nobody else. I don't hear this by happening to no black baseball players. I don't hear it's only football. And football is the only sport that they whine about in college with NIL, talking about they need to hire somebody to be in charge of college football. Isn't the NCAA in charge of college football? So what do I need? I'm like, you don't want nobody to be in charge of college football. You want somebody to be in charge of who it is that can play and who cannot, and who gets paid and who doesn't. I think it incents them that Dante Moore went back to school and got $7.5 million. How much does Arch Manning get? About the same? So now, because Dante Moore went back to school, because Trinidad Shamblitz went back to school, Darian Mensah moved from Duke after getting $4 million over there and then about to get 10 over here. That's the problem. I said, why is it football? College football is the only sport y'all whine about NIL. There's nothing wrong with the NIL. From what I can see, it's perfect timing because these black quarterbacks get the benefit from getting paid and staying in school and being in a system where they're appreciated rather than abused. And I'm happy Trinidad Shambles got to go back, but I don't think there are a lot of people that are not happy about that. They thought they had that one sold up. So he better watch his back and his front and his side and his left and everything else. Same thing with whoever coming in this year. And it should show you that what's happening with the players going back to school, thank God for NIL, right? That's why they don't want it to exist. Because they see, oh, they don't want to come out. And it's messing up their strategy because they were trying to part the Red Sea for Arch Manning. But with Trinidad going back, you see how they got Trinidad at the 2 behind Arch? Now, that don't make no damn sense. Trinidad went to the semifinals. UT didn't even go to the playoffs. So what does that say? They're already in college devaluing these quarterbacks because of what they're trying to do in the NFL. Get them over there at a certain spot. That's what happened to Jalen Milroe and with Jackson Dart. They made Jalen Milroe seem like straight trash, and they had damn near identical. They QBRs wasn't all far off each other at all. And nobody came out and said that. Thank you so much. Nobody came out and said that Alabama fired their offensive coordinator because he failed to develop the quarterback. Talking about Jalen Milroe. Nobody ever came back and straightened that out. They just trashed Milroe. They fired him for poor play calling and lack of development of the quarterback. Didn't that sound like Stefanski? So it happened to Milroe first. The only reason it didn't happen to Shedeur is because Coach Prime. So now he could go because, and I'm starting to think one of the reasons they put Juju at the 3 is because I didn't know that Colorado signed a quarterback from Utah. And apparently it's the quarterback that was playing at the time when Travis got burnt on one play, the only play he ever got burnt on. That guy was the quarterback, Isaac. He came from Utah. So I remember Juju making a comment a couple of weeks ago, Lord, I'm trusting you. And I was like, why would he say that? Right. And I was like, oh, maybe, whatever. So now I get it. So he's saying, I'm trusting you. I chose to stay here. Y'all signing another quarterback. Then we see Juju end up at the 3. I told you, Juju ain't coming out. So for him to be up at the 3 is not about his skill set. They are telling him that if you leave there, we got you. Because Coach Prime signed the guy from UT. And I'm kind of surprised that would happen. But I don't follow Colorado every day like that because I already told y'all that they trying to push out Coach Prime. So I'm just going slow. I'm going to the game, though. I'm going, and I'm going to cheer on Juju. But it's something going on over there already. I don't know how I don't know why you would do that. And maybe y'all need to tell me. We already had 3 quarterbacks. We needed a 4th. Why would I bring that kid? I don't know. If Juju's supposed to be the guy, and if something happened to Coach Prime, Juju going to be left over there, right? Because the portal don't open till next January. It's not like he can hop out. So I don't know. But I do understand Juju's message now. Lord, I'm trusting you because I'm doing what you wanted me to do to stay here and be loyal, but what's going on? Yep. So we're going to get out of here. This was good. It's a lot. This was informative. It was a lot happening in this podcast in terms of, it's not relative though, right? It's a lot in terms of the things that are happening, but they all come back to the NFL and college football's foundation of racism, white supremacy. It just does. And protecting the look of the league and who gets the money at the top, making sure that the Black people don't necessarily make it. And so much so that we're now seeing new trends happening where, Isaiah likely doesn't have a contract, but let's see what happened to him. We'll see where Tyreek, I heard he might end up in Denver or back to the Chiefs. We'll see what happens. We'll see exactly what happens with Denzel Ward. It don't matter what the hell they saying over there in Cleveland. I did look at it. That's why I looked at his contract. I said, I see what they saying, right? And they could have had that put out there to make him straighten up because it's another year coming with Shedeur, right? So we'll see. All right, y'all, we're going to get out of here. This was really, really good. A lot of comments, 125 of us. Hit the like button on the way out. Trinidad Shambles chat, watch it work. We will be talking about Trinidad Shambles. We will probably be watching Ole Miss play. And on the next podcast, you could think about what are the must-see Colorado football games. I know we got Georgia Tech, so we're gonna be talking about that next because I'm curious. We got Georgia Tech and whoever Omarion played for. That's gonna be a must-see game because we want to see how that goes. So kind of start thinking about the must-see games for Colorado for this upcoming season. And I'm gonna see if I can go find those tickets. I started looking for tickets to the game, but I only saw season tickets. The game I'm referencing is Colorado versus Georgia Tech. That has been moved to a Thursday. I don't think it really matters, but it was moved to a Thursday, September 3rd, just in case you don't know some market calendars. All right, y'all, I'm gonna get out of here. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Thanks for watching What She Said Sports. This was 2 hours and 40 minutes. Wow, 2 hours and 20 minutes or 2 hours and 40 minutes, whatever it was a great conversation. So y'all have a good night. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Thanks for watching What She Said Sports.